guys, Pastor Greg Locke here, and I came to our local Books A Million to prove a point about witchcraft. I'm so sick of the church saying there's no such thing as witchcraft. Why are you always talking about dream catchers and healing crystals and yoga mats and blah 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 blah, and all you ever do is talk about demons. Witchcraft is not real. First of all, witches laugh at us because they're very real. This is our local Books A Million, and this is one side that I'm going to show you of all of the spell books, the witchcraft, 2 entire sections of tarot cards, Ouija board nonsense. You can slow the video down later and see it.
It gets better. It gets better. Trust me.
About practical witchcraft, astrology, again, tarot cards, crystals, yoga, Greek mythology.
Yoga.
What's a part of the witchcraft section?
Yoga.
The Secret. That's a book about manifesting your destiny, making things come to pass. Tons of stuff here. Look at this whole section.
Isn't
that interesting? Stuff all over the place. Look at this stuff in the middle. Candles galore.
Candles, dog.
I need a drink now.
Chalices.
I'm not even waiting.
A chalice.
Bunch of witchcraft nonsense. I'd like to buy everything in this whole store and burn it all in the parking lot. It's ridiculous. Tons of stuff. Oh, and then get this here.
What?
There's a section with Ouija board pendants. And guess what? For all you people that think I'm full of hocus pocus and you bunch of individuals, guess what's right beside the Ouija board section? Dream catchers. Dream catchers. Ain't nothing wrong with dream catchers. Oh yeah, very much wrong. They invite demons. It's in the witchcraft section. They even believe it, but these naive, lukewarm, skinny jean wearing, limp-wristed Christians won't stand up to what needs to be stood up to. Check this out. They have whole sections where you can buy sage.
Sage. Dog, sage.
It's in the witchcraft section. It's not in the Christian living section. It's not in the cycling and health magazine section. It's in the witchcraft section. Tarot cards. They even got queer tarot cards. All. Sage everywhere. Burning sage does not cleanse the room. Burning sage brings demons. Check this out.
Oh.
DC.
Oh.
DC tarot cards. Crap is everywhere. Witch manuals galore. Cast a spell. There are literally 1,000, 1,500 different books. And then all these candles, astrology, horoscopes. It's all right here. And everybody wants to get mad at Pastor Greg Locke and Global Vision because we believe this nonsense is exposed. No wonder so many people in the church world need deliverance from witchcraft and the occult and Satanism and satanic ritual abuse and all this evil. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. Our Books A Million is full of this stuff. Witches everywhere. The Witch's Way. A guide to modern day spellcraft, nature magic, and divination. Okay, divination is a demon. It's called the spirit of Python, Acts chapter 16, verse 16. It's everywhere. And people want to get mad at me for calling it out. But the facts are the facts. Stuff's all over the place. Burn sage, burn sage, burn sage. All kind of little, crystals and pendants. It's an entire section in a Books A Million in my local town, for Pete's sake. It's everywhere. Everywhere. And guess what is in the section right beside it? Dungeons and Dragons. Laugh at me all you want to. But come out in Jesus' name, all that witchcraft.
Coming from a galaxy near you, this is Brothers in Booze. And here are your hosts, Greg Washington and Doug Ziegler.
Welcome to Brothers in Booze, folks. That was quite an opening.
Yes, and I love the DC part. I'm glad you saw that, Doug. That should have
made me laugh.
I saw this.
Made me laugh. Oh,
yes, I saw it this morning. And I was like, wait, is any of her guest books here? Like, he absolutely probably scammed by one of our guest books there. Absolutely. Sure. Does this guy know anything between? The only question I would want to ask him is, do you understand the difference between fact and fiction? Like, it's you have any grasp of what fiction is? Any grasp of make believe and stories and you know what I'm saying? Like you don't take the Game of Thrones, Doug. Like you love the Game of Thrones. I know you love that shit. You didn't literally take it as a literal piece of
As gospel?
like yeah, like
no.
I was just so thrown away. I know who he is. I think we had him on here before.
Yeah.
Just to laugh at. Obviously, we do not condone anything this man says. He's a crazy lunatic. But I also thought was very interesting, real quick, Doug, was that like he came after, like he wasn't going after like, you know, ninnies like you and me and Jeremy. He was going after like his tribe, like his Christians. He's upset that they're not as radical as he is. That was really interesting. That was like Christian on Christian crime or something. I was really taken aback. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Sorry.
Oh, okay, go. Oh, okay.
Our comments are already kind of popping off, so I was already.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. And I'm just ignoring them for the moment. But yeah. Wait, what was that for? Yeah, it looks dope.
Pretty cool to me.
Right. What's up, Stephanie? How you doing? You picked a funny night to join us because we're gonna have a great night here. Fabulous guest. But like I had to show that guy because that shit was just funny and it was really relevant to our guest tonight because he lives in this realm or works in this realm, lives in this realm, writes in this realm, produces, directs. He's just all over it. It's really, really fun to talk to him about it. But like sometimes Reddit just feeds me the best videos, Doug, and the best days. And this was today. So cheers to that. And cheers to what I'm having today, which is I'm still on Oktoberfest, Doug. I am loving it. I got a Potosi Marzen style lager. I know y'all are going to be drinking bourbon and scotch and all kinds of things tonight, so I'm kind of approaching it a little bit. I'm going to the ferment for the festival of barrel-aged beers tomorrow, Doug.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
I need to tamp it down a little bit tonight, and not go crazy. Like I think you might, but I'm not sure.
No, I'm not going to go crazy, but yeah, I'll have some samples today.
All right. If you did that would be fine. What do you got? Or do you want to wait for Jeremy? Or
no, I'm good to start now. Jeremy can comment when he comes in. So I'm going to go with 3 different scotches tonight. Our guest is also a Scotch aficionado, so I'm really happy. So I'm going to start with one that I picked up because of the name, but it's Speyside. It's but this light really doesn't let me show this thing off too well. But it's Altmore and it's called Foggy Moss.
Oh, there we go. Keep it right there.
Altmore, Foggy Moss, Speyside Scotch.
Yeah, and I see in the green room our guest is shaking his head. He's loving that.
Yeah, so
loving it.
Yeah, so this is one that I never even heard of, and I like me some Scotch. So me not hearing of one is not too common.
Yeah.
So, but it was called Foggy Moss, and I'm a big fan of like foggy mornings and all that stuff. So, and plus, if you've never been into fog in Scotland, you've never really been in fog. So, but that is a nice Speyside, different kind of. Usually, that's not the. I'm trying to think to describe the flavor profiles are generally more sweeter. This is. You can see it's a lot lighter than some of the other. The other ones I'll have later are much darker. So with mine, I tend to pour a little water in it to kind of open it up a little bit. We'll talk to Jeremy how he does it because you can drink it anyway. Like, Gizmees of Thrones is not factual. Gizmees.
Nope, it's not. Oh, look, we've witch vibes were tingling. We had witches watching that got little. Yeah. Okay. All right. Witch. Right.
So yeah.
Why did I didn't.
Yeah, that's all right. It's Zach. We take that with a grain of salt.
Or a grain of fog, right?
Maybe. But this is really nice and smooth. Like the ones I'm going to get into later, like I'll have an Islay. Those are way peatier and smokier. And then I also have one Talisker, which is kind of its own little thing. So we'll talk about that later. But cheers to you folks. I had to pour it early because that freaking nutcase in the first video was like, I can't sit there and watch.
Did he drive? He drove you to drink, though,
which is probably his goal. So maybe I'm feeding the beast there. I don't know.
Yeah, but he wasn't even talking to you. You're not like a nitty little, what did he call them? Jeans wearing, what did he call it? What was he all?
Who knows?
I loved it. Again, I love that he wasn't coming after people like us. He was coming after his own crew because they're not radical enough. They're not radical enough, Doug. But what is radical is that somehow we got the guests that we got tonight. That's pretty radical because I don't know why anybody would want to spend an hour and a half talking to us crazy clowns. But luckily, I think we made an impression on his significant other. So she was really, really kind to suggest us. You were really nice to Mallory. You were. I mean, I was too. But Doug, you're always nice. You're always nicer to me. That's kind of the vibe that we got going here. So, but I usually, when it's Doug's guest, usually Doug introduces, and I'm gonna but I'm gonna do a little pre-introduction of why I'm excited about who our guest is. He is a professional storyteller, and he does it on different like levels, Doug. And it's just fascinating to me. How I want to ask like how he got into it, and how when did you see that vision? And I think we asked Mallory the same questions, like. How does someone like, with two teenage boys, Doug, and you have a bunch of teenagers in your house and young adults, how do they see, how does a person that does these things see this, that they want to do this when they're so young? And then how do they bridge that gap? Because he comes from Bowie, Maryland, which is, I believe, 15 minutes or 20 minutes outside of Washington. And it's just with all due respect, he's probably going to agree, and I'm not trying to be rude, it's just America. It's not anywhere special. It's not like New York or LA, or not that it's not anywhere special. It's not a big place where it's known for pumping out people who write and produce, and you know what I'm saying? So how does he get to be a little boy from there to get to where he is today? I'm fascinated, and I already asked him, so he's prepped for that. But I'm gonna just pass it to you to do the rest. But I'm excited for that reason.
Yeah, so I guess Jeremy Lambert, like I said, he's done a lot of different stuff. You and I were struggling to kind of figure out what the heck, where do we start, and how, what do we kind of, because there's so much, I don't think we can possibly get to it all, but he's written things for like in the Doom Patrol and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Dungeons and Dragons and like Warhammer.
Dungeons and Dragons.
And Warhammer. He's got a new book coming out in the Warhammer realm, so that's going to be fun to talk about. He's worked on shows where like he was the extras casting director in Game of Thrones. Worked on True Blood and like
True Detective, I think too.
True Detective, and then things like Magic Mike and Fast and Furious 7 and like
Magic Mike. We're not going to do that. Well, no, forget it.
No, we're not going to do that. But like the idea of like just the diversity of things he's worked on it's great to see that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to bring him on and talk with us about the millions of things that man does. So without further ado, Mr. Jeremy Lambert.
Where's my drums? Yes.
Wow. I feel like that was the greatest introduction I've ever received in my life.
Yes.
Complete with the video beforehand of that guy basically saying, "I'm going straight to hell," just like which, to be honest, I mean, total goal. I mean, I needed to piss those people off.
Yes, sir.
So,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Comics, tarot, get him out of here.
Right.
Oh my god.
Jeremy, what's in the glass before?
He
drove Doug to drink, so maybe he's driving you to drink too.
Yeah, no, I definitely already had a sip, but I just poured one of my favorites, which is, and the reason why it's one of my favorites is because it is probably $18, $18.99. Finlagen. You can find it at your local Trader Joe's. I think it's a Trader Joe's exclusive. My friend Jody Hauser, who's another comics writer, recommended it to me a while back, and I picked it up, and I was just like, and I think it's a kind of like a secret of where it's actually distilled.
Yeah,
it's an islet, but they're like they keep
Trader Joe's does that. They do that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm having right now, but we'll see. I've got some more stuff lined up, but we'll figure out what happens. I would love to take the donkey from Doom Patrol to go to hell. Or Scotland. Which one are you talking about? I don't know. Either one works for me.
Scotland first, of course, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can. Right. Doug, first question, buddy.
Oh man, like I said, I'm really not sure where to begin. So let's start with you just released a book in the Warhammer. You have a Warhammer series, yes, or a series?
Well, it's a short story that just got released. It's a horror short, and then I did another short story recently too.
Okay. So for those of us who are uneducated, explain Warhammer a bit. I mean, I did a Google search on it. You know, it's just like, here's this board game. And can you give us a little bit more of what Warhammer is? So like if people want to explore that kind of stuff, you know, that way they can find your stuff to buy.
Yeah, for sure. It's a huge question about where to start. I guess.
I know it's
no, you're good. I love it because it's basically, you can kind of get into it from a couple different avenues, but the first one, and I think the main one, is probably that you saw, at least for me, you saw tiny little miniatures, fantasy miniatures of ghosts and goblins and, you know, ghouls and elves and all kinds of sorcerers and whatnot. And someone had painted them and put them in a display case. And I saw it in like a mall. And you just, you know, have to figure out, you know, what the hell, where can I get them? How can I paint them? And, you know, as a kid, you're just sort of enraptured with it. But basically, it's Games Workshop puts this world out, and it's a few of them. They have Warhammer, which is the fantasy battles, Warhammer Age of Sigmar now, and then there's Warhammer 40K, which is the science fiction futuristic version of it. And basically, you can kind of, if you're more a science fiction fan, you go in that direction. If you're more of a fantasy fan, you go in that direction. But essentially it's its own world. I mean, I would basically, you know, I think the easiest parallels would be, you know, okay, it's their version of Westeros that they started, I think, in, what was it, 76 or something like that, 1976. And there's all these different factions, and they've basically created this, I'm going to use fantasy, for example, because those are the short stories of mine that I'm writing for. That's pretty much what I'm the biggest fan of, is the fantasy side of things. But yeah, I mean, however you want to go about it, if you just want to dive into the lore, they just have books and books and books and books of rule books and world books and faction books, if you're obsessed with, you know, elves or, you know, massive, pestilential creatures, you know, there's kind of something for everyone. So you can kind of just dive into whichever faction you're most a fan of. If you like, you know, vampires, there's plenty of that as well. So trying to figure out the most general, you know, encompassing way to describe it. But basically, if you like miniatures and you like fantasy or science fiction, I would highly recommend going in one of those directions. Yeah,
sounds like a rabbit hole, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, you'll find yourself at 2 o'clock in the morning painting tiny plastic men.
Hey, you know, to some people, that's the thing. I imagine the people that I know that have done that stuff, there's like a soothing element to actually painting them.
For sure. And they've got me good, like, because I'm listening to the audiobooks that they're putting out while I'm painting the miniatures that are a part of, you know, their world. It's like, there's this massive troll, and I'm like, oh, you know, like, listening to whatever's happening. And it's just like these amazing British narrators who are all just, you know, really getting into it and like making the sound effects and character voices. Ugh,
yeah, there's something to having like an audio book thing where the narrator is like making character voices for all the characters.
Yeah.
There's something just like, you hear some people do it. Some people are good at it. One of my favorites is a guy named Ray Porter who does this whole series of books by Jonathan Mayberry, the Joe Ledger series. And he does voices for every single character is different. And it's just him doing all the voices. And I'm like floored by people that can do that kind of stuff. Because
I love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Before we move on to the next question, Zach Rosenberg is asking the sweater. He's like in the market for a sweater. Where did you get the
sweater?
Yeah.
It is hell yeah. This is a Faherty sweater. It's a cardigan. I can't remember. I don't even know if they still sell it. I think it's Faherty. I'm wearing it because it was 20 degrees when I woke up this morning. But you know, it's cold up here in the mountains, so we're, you know, I'm sure Mallory probably has a fire going at this point upstairs. So
yeah, we don't normally get fashion questions on the show, so that was something I had to look at. So
this is a good one. It's
looks
extremely warm.
fancy.
It's extremely warm, I will say that. So it's cozy and it's warm, and it's all you need.
I don't even know why Zach's asking though. Does it get cold where he's at, Doug?
No, he's in LA, so I don't know.
What the fuck is he talking about?
Here's the thing, though. When I moved from Bowie to LA, I had this I basically didn't bring any of my winter clothes, and then slowly I started bringing them out from home. But they just sat in a closet. I never used them. But now that we live up in the mountains, they're like the number one thing that I bust out.
Right. And when you mean home, you mean Maryland, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, that's a segue to my question, because Doug always likes to get into the thing, and I'm always fascinated, Jeremy, by like I'm fascinated by what you do during the day, and we'll get to that in a second. But I'm also really fascinated on how people get to where they get doing the things that they do. I am an at-home dad, and this is the thing I do. It's not that fascinating. If it was, I would be selling my rights to Doug, and he would be writing my autobiography, and we would be trying to do something. But it's just not that fascinating. Now, you, on the other hand, my friend, have a really interesting. For me, looking out from and not really knowing who you are, you have a fascinating story arc. I can go there, and so can you tell us about how you? Because you seem to be still a young chap.
You seem to be young. You seem
to be young. Seems to be. Now, again, I don't see any gray hairs, Doug, but his resume, in my opinion, exudes someone who's been in the industry for a bunch of years. So that's why I say he seems young, Doug. That was the senior part. So, Jeremy, if you could just tell us a little bit about how you became, who you are, and what you do from where you came from. And yeah, look, Bowie, Maryland, right?
Bowie, Maryland.
Yes, shout out. So Jeremy, so how did that, did you know early that you wanted to do this? Was it something that, were you in the fantasy world when you were young? Yes. What was going on? What's up?
Yes to all of that. I mean, basically, I can kind of trace everything back to when I was 12 and when I first saw Lord of the Rings, which probably dates me, but hey, PG County, absolutely right. But I saw Fellowship of the Ring in theaters, and I desperately wanted to figure out, because it was the first time that it kind of clocked for me that somebody made a movie, and that there were all these people in the credits, and I had to just like memorize all of their names so that I could go home and try and go to the library or get on the internet and try and figure out, just who the hell these people are. And that spawned the fascination. My friends and I started making movies, in the best way that we possibly could with a Hi8, camcorder, or the VHS camcorder that we had. And they would be terrible. I mean, we would just make these movies in backyards. We would go out and but it would be totally serious. It would just, we were trying to be Peter Jackson. We were trying to be, Guillermo del Toro, Steven Spielberg, as we sort of went through high school. And I think, but that was the gateway was Lord of the Rings, because I got into Warhammer through that. I got into, you name it. It just sort of it spawned my love of, or at least it sort of calcified my love of fantasy and my love of storytelling. And it showed me that, that might be something that you could even potentially do, when everyone's asking, what is your well, who do you want to be? What do you want to be? You know, it's like veterinarian, lawyer, like whatever it is. And you're just like, oh, wait a second, I can do that. So it still, being from Bowie, felt very distant. Like it didn't feel, you know, like it was possible.
Right.
You know, but it was really, like I was saying, it was just that love of like carrying it from books when I was younger, and, you know, Disney movies like Beauty and the Beast, which I was obsessed with, which I am obsessed with. But it's just like, there's like all of that, you know, sort of builds to a head. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're in your friend's backyard, like I said, filming, you know, some scene with two swords you got from the Renaissance Festival that are actually surprisingly sharp. Probably shouldn't be used for filming when you're doing a sword fight with. Maybe you get cut pretty bad, maybe you don't, but you know, it's just like,
oh, okay.
It was, you know, so much of that, and then finding a community and you know, in Bowie, and people that like the same things that you like, that you could play Warhammer with, you know, that you could do all of this stuff with. But that's what carried me through, because I kept with it, and I kept, you know, being the person that wanted to do, you know, make better movies. I wanted to, you know, pre-production, didn't understand what that term was back then, but I desperately wanted.
Neither do us. Neither do we.
I wanted to supply some order instead of just grabbing a camera, whatever props we had, and just like kind of making things up on the fly. I was like, well, I mean, we got to like write something, right? Like we have to figure out what to do beforehand, and then we could do it. And then all of a sudden I'm writing, you know, these 1-page sort of, you know, movies that we would go off and make, because mostly the other guys didn't want to do it, but I did, you know, and I found that to be eventually found that to be the most fun part of the process for me. Wow. So, you know, all of a sudden that becomes something that I'm focusing on more and more without realizing it, because it's where I'm having the most fun. And, you know, to the point where I'm writing stories for my miniatures, for Warhammer miniatures that I'm painting, and like figuring out, can I do stop motion with very still plastic figures? And the answer is not very well, but I still tried it. You know, and so I think that's kind of the seeds of it. That's what kind of, you know, carries me through. And then, you know, all of a sudden you go into college and that sort of thing, or at least trying to learn more about it.
So
go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I'm sorry. What I hear real quick is that you're living your dreams. That's really sometimes almost literally, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's
really cool.
Yeah, is that it just, like, it's when I'm happiest is when I'm working on that kind of stuff.
Well, before we get to Doug real quick, I just want to, you know, hats off to you, because I think that's what we all kind of want to envision for ourselves when we are young, is to live out our dreams. And some of us don't get to, for whatever reason, whether it be, you know, things are stacked up against us, or we screwed that up, or something happened during the way to derail that. So to literally talk to someone who's literally living their dreams and actually putting them on paper, Doug, is it's a real fun thing.
It is. Thank you. Yeah, it's honestly, it's a blast to just work on this stuff every day. And of course there's, you know, all kinds of various things that you gotta jump through and figure out, but at the same time, it's just like, at the end of the day, I'm constantly telling myself, you know, if it was a rough day of writing or something like that, I was like, hey, that was a rough day of writing, you know, fantasy characters. I think you'll be all right, you know.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Doug, real quick though, I have to do this. So Daniel says he's happy to see Totoro. Totoro? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Behind Jeremy. So now, Daniel, this is your fault. Now we're going to rate Jeremy's background. So that's your fault, Daniel. Okay, so Doug, I really have to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Look at it, man. Look at what he has on the walls back there. I see some swords.
Well, we got
I see
Lord
some
of the Rings
artifacts.
weaponry. Speaking of
Look
Lord
at
of the
that.
Rings
Oh, and look, the Goosebumps poster. Look at this.
That's
this is a 10. This is a 10. This is a 10
Boom.
out of 10.
Yeah.
This is
Also,
a 10 out of 10. And then the door, Doug. Like, where does Jeremy? You
Mystery,
don't have to.
man.
You don't have to answer it. But where does that
Mystery.
door go? Like, is it like an open door portal to like Jeremy's like made up like fantasy world that he's going to write a graphic novel about in like 10 years or something? What's going on, Doug? That is a 10
cool
out of
version?
10 room.
That's the
Yes.
cool version. What's actually behind that door is Warhammer storage. Because I've been collecting since I was 12, I have a ridiculous amount of plastic and pewter miniatures behind that door. Some of them are put together, some of them are painted, some of them aren't. Some of it's like scenery, like little trees for the table. You know?
But the mystery, Jeremy, is this better than anything. The mystery of it, even if you don't say anything, it just adds to the whole thing. Doug, what do you got? How do you rate this? And then, of course, the follow-up.
yeah, I'm gonna give that a good 9.5, just because I do want to know what's behind the door. I'm thinking he's not being honest, and there's like his dwarf buddies are back there having a blast. Is what I'm gonna guess.
And his witch friends.
Oh yeah, your witch friends too. We forgot about
Right.
maybe
Right. Because
maybe they're having a coven meeting right now.
It's a room full of sage.
it's
Sage and tarot cards.
those DC tarot cards. Don't front.
And then he's got like, hey, would you like a signed autographed copy of the DC Tarot for you?
I'm just like signing actual just sprigs of sage with a Sharpie. This is for you.
Oh, that's great. Russ, beware.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
going to open up a portal of something. Yeah. Yeah, the door turns into being Jeremy Lambert.
It's possible. I walked back through it when we were off screen.
All right, Doug, this is all yours. I gotta go refill my drink.
Yeah, okay.
Right on.
Well, I'm going to jump into something that isn't writing related, but it is part of your resume that I'm super fascinated with because of my fascination with Game of Thrones. How did you come into being, I believe you have it as the extras casting director.
Yeah.
Like that's not writing. That's a different piece of all the stuff, right? It's not
For sure.
It's like you're not directing. You're not like here's the people I need to get together, go in these scenes. So one, I'm fast. I loved all of the Game of Thrones stuff. People shit on the last 2 seasons. They weren't as great as but they were not going off of books. They were making it up as they went along. So I kind of give them a smidge of a pass on that. So how'd you get into that stuff?
Yeah. Well, it sounds way cooler than it is because I did the pickup shots and everyone on location, but we did some LA based pickup shots for Game of Thrones for a few seasons, for 3 seasons of it. And that was I'll do a quick version of how I got into it to start with, because it was my first job outside of film school, but it was also my job before I went to film school in a surprising way, very randomly. When I was in Maryland, when I was in Bowie, I was going to a community college, Anne Arundel Community College, and that was in 2007. Yeah, 2007. And my mom is a big theater fan and acts in plenty of plays as well. She's an amazing actress. And so she would pay attention to a lot of like the extras casting calls and stuff that would come to DC, which isn't that many when you're talking about like Los Angeles or New York or anything like that. Right. But there was a film called The State of Play with Russell Crowe and Ben Affleck and Rachel McAdams that came out. That was being filmed in DC. And so she got me up at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning on a weekend, and I was like tired. I was like, kind of didn't want to go, but I could tell that she really wanted to. So we went, and I wrote on the back of this little like casting call card after they took my photo to be an extra and stuff. I was like, hey, I'm a film school student, please, if there's anything I could do to help, please let me know. And I put my number and everything down on that. And then the extras casting director, Richard King from Rich King Casting called me like the next day and was like, hey, I need like local help. I need somebody to, that knows the area to help me out. And it was that call that honestly I feel like it was similar to like a Lord of the Rings moment for me, because it just like I started working with him in DC, and it was in extras casting, and I was fascinated because it was the first time I'd been on like a real film set, and stuff like that. But anyway, we had a quick job. It was like 2-3 weeks, of working on this film set, and then I went off to film school. But I kept in touch with Rich the whole way, and he's been such a wonderful human being to me ever since. But when I got out of film school, he offered me a job as his assistant. So I did that for a couple of years, and then became an extras casting director under him for another 3 years, so about 5 years. And in that time, he would get the calls because he was a very well established extras casting director. And agency really, and so through him we got all of these amazing gigs, and he would say, "Oh, Jeremy, you can take this one or do this one now," or that sort of stuff. And one of those things was Game of Thrones, which I was a fan of at the time too. So it was an amazing thing for me to be able to work on, even if it was just pickup shots. Seeing you have to get everything sort of organized. A lot of it's stand-in work. So you're casting the stand-ins, you're casting a lot of the photo doubles, casting a lot of people in the background that all, especially for Game of Thrones, have to fit a very specific size or something like that for wardrobe, or they have to go in for multiple fittings so that they can apply, obviously the wardrobe itself, but then like maybe they'll have, prosthetics, or maybe they'll have, some kind of facial hair or some kind of wig or whatever it is, where it's very involved. And those were my favorite projects. They were a lot more work, but they were like Game of Thrones, for example, was a huge, enterprise. I mean, it was just like this massive operation, but you're having to send people and be like, "Oh, hey, so you're going to be Dothraki, or you're going to be this, or you have to fit into this armor. Are you comfortable wearing armor? Are you comfortable being in this situation?" Like that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it's like those were the best things to work on. I had to cast a stand-in for a bear at some point, which basically meant big person that would be comfortable holding the right color and length of fur so that it was lit correctly, and that VFX could get a good adjustment and idea of like that kind of stuff, which you never expect, but is extremely fun to do.
It sounds super interesting, because like, how do you, like, you wouldn't think that's what you'd be doing, but yeah, interesting. But this is a great question too. I'm curious what you think about this.
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of writing while on the Game of Thrones job. The answer is yes. Normally, I mean, basically, in order to kind of get my writing career going, because that was like I said before, it was when I realized, that I was having more fun than ever, was when I was writing a lot of things, and why I enjoyed pre-production more than pretty much anything else. As a writer, let's say, a producer, I'll separate that for another time. But yeah, the answer is absolutely yes. Did a lot of writing while on the job, and it did inspire me. I think it's funny because I think a lot of the writing that you're doing, whether you like it or not, does get influenced by a lot of, obviously, what everything else that's happening around you at that point in time in your life. And so being obsessed with fantasy, I was always wanting to be as close to the fantasy world as possible. So I don't know if it inspired me to be closer to that, but it definitely, it was very inspiring to see works of that nature being made, especially around that time when, again, Game of Thrones is an adaptation, but you're not seeing a lot of original work, especially original fantasy work, because it's such an unwieldy, expensive thing to do.
Yeah.
That the stars really have to align for that kind of stuff. But the real answer is, like, in order to I mean, I think the career and the things that I'm doing now are possible, were made possible by the writing that I was doing then, because it was at 3-4 o'clock in the morning before the days before the film day was starting, and it would be 8 p.m. to whenever I would go to sleep at night, and that was just every day, because it was it was mostly screenplays and comic books and stuff like that, and that was a decade of that, really. Whether it was doing extras casting or whether it was doing producing, that was happening the whole time. And I'm not saying that all of those things were good. I would say the grand majority of them weren't, but a lot of it, was just putting the time in and trying to write and get all of the, the stories that I desperately wanted to tell, the types of stories that I desperately wanted to tell, and sort of build, hopefully, a skill level and getting better and better about, how I'm approaching it, learning things, writing 20 pages to realize those 20 pages are shit, but that's not wasted work, because you realize those 20 pages were shit, and now you're going to write a better 20 pages because of the last 20 that you wrote. So it's learning a lot of lessons like that, I think, while on the job, wherever you are in the world, or wherever you are, when you're filming this sort of thing, protecting that time to write.
Man, I write some, and I do that thing that you're talking about. Like, I read, man, that sucks. And then I just get so mad at myself, and it's really hard to dust yourself off from that sometimes, especially if
discouraging.
I like writing, and I've written a boatload of short stories and but nothing's ever been published, and I've submitted some, but I haven't been going crazy with it. But at the same time, it's like, writing and rejection is kind of the name of the game. You don't, like getting something accepted is a pretty big deal, no matter what the scale. So like the idea that you're saying with, you have to realize you wrote that 20 pages and that might not be what you want, but that helps build you to build the other 20 pages that come next so that they're better.
Yeah.
I just wish I would quit, mentally berating myself for not writing a masterpiece.
Well, look, the thing is too, is that I'm still doing that. I'm still berating myself. I still, like, it happens weekly. It's just like I don't think that part ever goes away. And if it does for some writers, that's great for them. But, and I truly admire the hell out of it. But for me, and I honestly think for everyone, I don't know if anyone is having, just like a blissful experience the whole time through, but it just stays with you. And I think like the biggest part of that fight is kind of sitting down the next day and allowing yourself to have those bad days, so
yeah. Great.
But, also I want to read some of your short stories now.
I write a lot of horror stuff, so I'm not sure that's going to be in your realm.
Yeah, a lot of what?
I like to write a horror and sci-fi, so that's more my wheelhouse. So.
Horror and sci-fi is absolutely my wheelhouse as well, my friend. It's all. What's funny is that they're called genre films in Hollywood, which I think is the funniest thing in the world, because it's just like, it's either this or it's genre, which is like horror, fantasy, and science fiction. But that umbrella is where I live and breathe. Like that's
it's a big umbrella.
Completely obsessed with horror, so count me
in. All right, you've opened the portal to my nonsense, so just be warned.
Jeremy, I'm gonna bug Doug too to make sure he sends you something to read.
Yes, because I am really bad at.
He's bad.
I'm bad at accepting any compliments.
And Jeremy, his shit's better than he thinks it is, but it's also I'm a different observer. I'm fascinated by y'all because I don't do any writing myself. So then I'm a different kind of critique than Doug is generally looking for, because I think sometimes when he writes things, he's looking for like a critique from like you or Mallory or someone who's a writer, and he's looking for, you know what I mean? Like he wants to, I'm not, I can talk to Doug, but he wants some validation from, y'all types who, actually write and struggle. And not that my point's invalid, but yeah, I'm a little bit more of a sucker. So like y'all would be like, not sucker, but like y'all would be like, oh, this is shit. And I'm like, damn, that was fascinating. That was really cool. Like, right. So I'm not really a good audience, and I love dogs. So like, it's just I have the dog color glasses on. So then you know how this works sometimes.
Are they gray? Because that's me.
Right. They're old and white with a beard, damn it. How about that? Anywho, I'm gonna ask you one last question, and then I think it's gonna be time for Doug's second, so then y'all can really get into the Scotch talk. I'm fascinated to hear that. But one of the things, Jeremy, that I picked up on you by doing some research this week, because again, I didn't really I knew I listened to Mallory's podcast, so I kind of know Mallory. I have a little bit more into like who she is as a person, because if you listen to enough of those, as you probably have, whether you're with her or not when she's doing it, you get a glimpse into who Mallory is as a person. She talks a lot about books and how that relates to her, and it's just really great. So you can almost figure out if you listen to them enough. But you, my friend, kind of hide behind the scenes, bruh. So like, not hide, of course, not hide, but you're more of one of those puppet masters behind this. You're pulling the strings, and we don't know which puppets that you're actually affecting and how you're affecting them. So it's kind of hard. But what I did grasp is that you're pretty. I mean, you do like telling stories. It's great. But you with the I need to get this right so I can say it right. Okay, cool. You one of your pieces that really fascinates me, and I need to know A, where I can find it, and B, just was the Queen of Basketball.
Yes.
That looks, I mean, that's really more of a documentary. So you're really not making a story up and telling it. You are absolutely taking a story that you already knew, or you researched and worked on, but that looks so fascinating. But I can't find. Do you know anywhere where I could see that? And then do you want to tell everybody about that project too, because it's fascinating. I think Doug, I don't know if you saw it or dug into it.
I'm a basketball head, so
I was gonna say you're a basketball head, so we got to get together and check this out. But Jeremy, tell us about all that project and how you came about it and all that, because it's interesting because for you it's kind of over here. You usually hang out over here.
No, for sure. Well, so first off, I'll say that when I moved on from Extras Casting, that was when I was 26. Something like that.
Ooh, he's dating himself now. Look at
myself. I started working at Breakwater Studios, which is run by a friend of mine named Ben Proudfoot, and he's the director of The Queen of Basketball. But he hired me as head of production for his company. And so I basically lead produced the films that we made, and did all of the, let's say, behind the scenes work of budgeting and scheduling and all of the logistics and how to get everyone, hiring people and getting them where they need to be in order to make, these movies. And for Breakwater specifically, it was documentaries. And so the Queen of Basketball came about. Well, first I'll say that I believe, at least I think you can still see it on YouTube. So if you search just the Queen of Basketball on YouTube, it should just be readily available there. It's part of a series that we did with the New York Times called Almost Famous. And I believe it was in season 2. Season 2 of Almost Famous. And it was discovered by, or at least the story, we got led to the story by Haley Watson, who was working in our camera department at the time. Who's an extremely talented director of photography and cinematographer, and she, I think, passed this along to Ben, who's the CEO of Breakwater and is the director of all the films, most of the films at Breakwater. And so he chased it down, and one of my producers at the time, Gabe Godoy, is a huge basketball fan. So I was just like, great, this sounds like a good project, for you to take lead on. And so I was more of an executive producer, or in one of those roles, I guess, and head of production role for Queen of Basketball. But it's about the first woman and only woman to be drafted into the NBA. And it follows her just amazing story. She also was the first person to score yeah, I mean, it was the first 2 points in women's Olympic history for basketball. Yeah, there you go. Scored the first basket in women's Olympic history, was the first only woman officially drafted in the NBA. There you go. And you know, you can kind of just let the doc speak for itself. It's a short documentary, so you know, it's definitely something you can find the time to fit in, and that's a form that we worked in the most at Breakwater was short documentaries. Before I moved on a couple of years ago to full-time writing, I was there for, again, probably about five-ish years, and I'm still part of Breakwater's sort of creative and original story and development department. So I still have meetings with them about that. But
and it was award-winning, and Doug and I are going to give you.
I mean, it's all, again, like all props to Lucy, first off. And then, you know, Ben, who led the charge, and Ben and Brandon Summeralder and Haley for discovering the story. I mean, there's a lot of people that led charge on that movie, and you know, Ben, obviously chief among them. And he was up there. When was it? This year? Time is weird, but yeah, it was at the Oscars this year, and so got to see it on stage.
Yes, and you were, I believe, your credits are co-producer. So, congrats to you, man.
Oh,
congrats to you. Congrats to you. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. And I can't wait. Like this Facebook user said, whoever they are.
That's Barry Jenkins.
Yeah, it is a great story. I can't wait to watch it. Right. Oh, nice. When I saw that, I was like, boom, because a lot of what Jeremy does is, you know, nonfiction or fiction. I'm sorry, and this is a nonfiction piece. So you've obviously delved into that too, and you do pretty well there. So again, kudos and congrats.
Thank you. Yeah,
and Doug is
thing to match. I mean, just on the point of incorporating things that are happening in your life into how you're working and how you're writing is that very point. Like going from extras casting and experiencing film from what you could say is kind of the lowest rung on the ladder, whether you're talking about extras or extras casting directors, frankly, in terms of crew, right? Or crew department heads or something like that. It's kind of, you're not thinking about them in a big role necessarily, but if you know you don't have extras in your movie, that verisimilitude is gone. But it's you're still, again, at the lowest, I'd say, at the lowest form of that. So you're experiencing film through that perspective, and then moving to documentary storytelling, where all I wanted to do was fiction, and just kind of, you know, write the stuff and go and film it. And I tried to do that at Breakwater a ton, but you could only, you know, do so much. And I learned a lesson in that was taught to me through documentaries and through nonfiction storytelling, and I incorporate that into fiction all the time, of how we told nonfiction stories, how those stories make sense, how they're edited together, learning from the editor and from the sound mixer and from the colorist and from, you know, the composer, and like all the different departments that, you know, I was lucky enough to run at Breakwater, which was really run as a basically a funny word of saying scheduling and logistics rather than any creative, you know, involvement.
I was going to ask you, to real quick, to crazy people like, or to me who doesn't really have a grasp of this, the difference between a producer and a director. And I don't think this is something that a lot of people know
for sure,
just inherently. So if you could just give us a quick synopsis, that'd be awesome. And then we're going to get to some scotch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. So directors are basically, the reason why everyone's talks about directors, you see a John Carpenter film, or, you know, a Guillermo del Toro film, or whatever it is, or, you know, you see that because it is a film told by them in the sense that they're distilling all of these different departments, all of these different creative individuals, and funneling them into a direction, basically providing guidance and vision for somebody who's in charge of makeup, somebody who's in charge of wardrobe, somebody who's in charge of the story, the screenwriter. You would think, but basically it kind of becomes the director's authorship at that point, because that individual is bringing all of those stories, bringing all of those people together to tell that story. So the director's the most fun, I think, for me, because it kind of brings in, you're getting to work with everybody, and you're getting to tell a story at that level and work with props and production designers and people who are putting the sets together, people who are, doing the prosthetics for the monster that you're creating because you're desperately wanting to make a monster movie or whatever it is, So that's the director, and or at least a very vague description of the director. And then the producers, there's a lot of different types of producers, which is, I think, why it gets confusing. You have a producer, an executive producer, a co-producer, an associate producer, all these random, different things are like, wait, what did they do on this project?
Right.
It makes no sense because it's just like, there's like 100 of them. And the easiest way that I can think of to describe that is there's producers that are, the producers are doing everything to make sure that film is going to be made, and it's going to be made on budget, and it's going to be made on time. Typically, it sounds like a pyramid scheme, kind of. But all of the logistics and the scheduling and the budgeting, and if you're getting to set and you're filming that monster that day, who's running payroll for all of the people that are building that monster? Who's hiring? All that stuff is just like a lot of the behind the scenes financials, but also sometimes creative problem solving. You'll see some buzzy producers, like for instance, you'll see like Jerry Bruckheimer or something like that. I'm sure just that name, will bring people to the movies at this point. And that's kind of how some producer credits work. Not to say, sorry, Jerry, I'm not saying that he's not doing anything on the movies. I'm just saying that, that's another aspect of it, so like if you see LeBron James is producing something, there you go, vision producer's money, then you'll get, a different look at what those different types of producers do and what the director does and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
Awesome. Doug, you want to do your second?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So now this is a bit of a technicality. I was going to do 3 regions.
Hit me.
So Talisker, which again, this light really doesn't do much for that. Let me try something here. Maybe that'll be better. Maybe not. There we go. Talisker Storm, which Talisker is on the Isle of Skye. So the people at Talisker will say they are not a Speyside whiskey. They take exception to that. I've actually been here. It is the coolest distillery I've ever been to. All the samples are free, which they aren't free at any other one. And the interesting thing about this is where it is right on this little inlet on the Isle of Skye, and it's been destroyed by the ocean like 3 times. But some of the ovens they use somehow managed to survive, even though the walls got crashed. So they still use these old 150-year-old ovens to cook stuff. And that kind of history kind of fascinates me. This is also one of my wife's favorite scotches. So little homage to her. But, it is, even though it's Speyside, it is a smidge darker than the Altmore. Altmore is a little lighter, but that's because of where it is. They actually peat this one, as opposed to they don't really peat the Altmore very much. One thing I wanted to ask you, Jeremy, is when you pour scotch, do you do anything with water or ice, or do you just pour it and drink it? Like, there's a million ways to drink it. I tend to take a little bit of water and splash it in because that's what they told me to do at the distillery. And
I mean, that is what I hear as well. Honestly, I'm kind of a heathen, I suppose. I'll just, I'll have it neat, and then I kind of have been trying different sorts of things where I'll do a little splash of water, or I'll do some ice, as well, just like on the rocks. So I more often than not, one cube. That's very funny because I was about to say that more often than not, that's what I'm doing, is putting in like a small ice cube or something like that to try and water it down, and get it cold and that sort of thing. But again, I'm like, I enjoy it, I love it, but I'm not very skilled, I would say, in Scotch.
I don't think it's a matter of skill. I mean, on the show we talk a lot about, we've had people on here who don't drink booze at all. They come on, they drink water or they drink tea or whatever, but drink what you like, and drink it how you like, like I prefer my Scotch not cold. I don't, unless it's cheap Scotch, and I'm talking like your really cheap Scotch, then you're better off making it cold to kind of numb some of the flavor. But like this stuff that I'm drinking, that's a little more expensive. So I generally want it room temperature with a little water to kind of open it up. They also, like, one of the things I did, which I don't have any here, which I wish I did, was I went to Dalwhinnie, and
nice.
Dalwhinnie did a gourmet chocolate pairing with each of their whiskeys.
Oh wow!
Which I had never done. I always thought chocolate pairing was wine stuff, but no, like you bite a little piece of chocolate, you let it melt in your mouth, you take some whiskey, and then you kind of like have it in your mouth. You kind of take a little breath in, and that's just like, it's like a flavor explosion in your mouth. And yes, I'm aware of how innuendo-y that sounds. I'm just saying, but that's how they talk about it. It was really an amazing little experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I would say I normally not room temperature, a little bit colder, but once it starts getting really cold, all of a sudden you start losing a lot of the flavor profile, I guess you'd say. It just becomes like a, just like a, it's almost like a shot. You kind of just, even if you're sipping it, if it's really cold, then all of a sudden it's a little, you're losing out on all kinds of things.
Yeah, there was one time I was out at a work dinner, and it was after work. So they were, my boss was like, everybody order what you want. So we have our food, and after there's like, do you want like a coffee? And I was like, I don't really want coffee, but they had Balvenie Doublewood, and I asked, can I have one of those? And my boss was like, yeah, order it. So 2 or 3, I think 4 other people ordered it. One of the newer guys was on there, and he was a kind of a younger guy who didn't drink Scotch. So we're like, cheers. And I just, take a little sip, and he just, woo. and his face turned so beet red that I thought his head was going to like pop off of his body, because that's not something you just swig down. That works.
I won't name names, but somebody who I used to work with, we were filming a documentary, and the subject of that documentary happened to make his own single malt Scotch, and which was fascinating to all of us. So I'm, we get all our glasses, right? He pours something for everyone. And so we all cheers, and me and the director, Ben, sipping on the Scotch, and, our coworker just like reflexively shoots this single malt to this guy, like lovingly. Everyone's like, oh, it's so good, and it was, but it's just like, he just huffed the thing, and then afterwards he realized what he did, and he's like, oh shit, I'm sorry. But we've all been there at some point.
we all make buffoonish mistakes, especially when booze is involved. So unfortunately it's not unusual, but yeah. So what is I know you showed us the one you have there. If you have your druthers, what is the Scotch of choice that you would prefer to have?
I would probably say the Scotch specifically. I mean, it's normally something peaty for me when I go to it. It's basic, but the first one, well, I guess basic when you start diving into Scotch. But the first one that kind of opened things up for me was Lagavulin 16, which I had never had. Like it was, I didn't have really Scotch. I didn't drink Scotch until I was like 26 or 27 or so or something like that. Because, there's typically like a bit of a price barrier, especially with Scotch, right?
Yeah,
like, can't afford it. Sure. Sorry, can't do it. And then like somebody bought a bottle of Glenfiddich, and then we were just like, oh wow, like the Glenfiddich 12. And it became something that I really started enjoying, seeking out different kinds, trying different kinds. It's the same thing with beer for me. I'm obsessed with beer. Lafroig is
a great one.
But yeah, I would say that normally, like reflexively, I would probably go towards a Lagavulin or a Lafroig or something like that. I don't know if there's one bottle necessarily anymore, but it would probably be something in that realm. An Islay whiskey, in some respect. But I've been getting into Irish whiskeys a lot. As well. Scotch is not for everyone. It's true. But which is why Finlagan, by the way, but I think it's great. I really do. I think Finlagan is amazing. It's 18-19 bucks at Trader Joe's. So instead of the depending on where you are, 12 or 20 pack of beer that I would be getting, I just got one of those instead.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I live in upstate New York, which everybody thinks is a huge liberal bastion, and I can't get liquor in my grocery stores.
Ah, wow, yeah.
So, like, there's a Trader Joe's that's about an hour from me in Ithaca, and I just can't get that kind of stuff. Like, we have no Costco. Like, everybody talks about like Kirkland brand stuff,
right?
That supposedly is pretty decent. I can't get any of that stuff.
Damn.
Yeah.
We'll have to work something out.
Yeah. So, I would say that, so Lafroig, I will say the one that I actually, if I'm going to have a go-to, it's probably going to be Ardbeg. I love Ardbeg stuff. Every Ardbeg it's actually, now the thing is, the cool thing is like with Ardbeg, there's a range of like their 4 main ones, and they're all from like 50 to 100, which 100's a lot to spend on a fucking bottle of whiskey, no doubt. But you don't see that. Most you get, if you're getting like, if there's 4 range of bottles, it's like, here's your 50, here's your 100, here's your 150, and here's your $300 20-year Scotch. They don't do that. They just have it all kind of in one little realm. And I've had all of their stuff, and man,
now you remind me of it. Me too, and I love them. I mean, what is it? Corey Vrecken, the Ugadal,
the OA. The OA is really good.
Oh yeah, that one I think is my favorite. But and then they came out with like Wee Beastie, right? Which is like a $45 bottle or something like that.
Yeah, and it's a 5-year one.
Right, and it's a 5-year one. And they did something similar with Lagavulin where they cut the 16.
Yeah, they had a 9. Is it 8 or 9? And then they just released an 11 one. That's what's his name from Parks and Rec.
Oh, Nick Offerman, yeah.
It's a Nick Offerman edition one with 11. They did that with the 9, I think, or the 8, whatever year it was.
I love that stuff, and honestly, it's funny because I even brought some more bottles down. But I had this past, whenever I did my last sort of like round of Scotch shopping, which is basically me going to Total Wine or something, and seeing what's on sale or whatever. But I was just determined to only buy bottles under $40. And so I walked away with, I got the Finlagan at Trader Joe's, and I walked away with I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, the Tomatine, an Airstone, Aerstone, and then a Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve and a Grangestone and stuff. But anyway, I just like bought a bunch of different types of under, sub 40 whiskey. Total Wine is dangerous, absolutely. And
we don't have one of those either.
Try them. Oh no, yeah. Out here, there's Total Wine and Bevmo, and those are the 2 big stores where you can kind of. It's just huge selection of stuff, and normally for a good price. So
Yes, we are in a deep way. Yeah.
Shut up, Zach. Jeremy was just saying about how he doesn't like to spend money on that.
Yeah, he just said I'm the one
right.
spending like 50, 60 bottles.
Right,
I have 3 bottles here that
right.
are probably $180, and you're like,
Blame Doug. It's Doug's fault, not Jeremy's.
Blame
It's Doug's fault.
Blame it on the alcohol.
There is something to, though, you know, I'm a tequila guy, Jeremy, and there is something to trying to find the cheapest bottle for like the best taste and all that. What are y'all looking to, though? Like what makes a good scotch for you? Is it the peatiness, or is it like what? I know what makes a good tequila for me. And a lot of tequila comes out off with like vanilla notes. Or I like a lot of I'm an añejo guy, so I like the barrel aged part. So I want to taste a little bit of a barrel in there, or some woody characters. What do y'all look for in the scotch? Because I don't think y'all have said this.
Jeremy.
Oh, sure. I mean, to be honest, like at this point, it's just not necessarily new flavors, but just, you know, distinctive flavors that are new to me, or, you know, if it's just, you know, overwhelming peatiness is kind of to me like IPAs. I think I've hit my limit on IPAs. You know what I mean? I still enjoy IPAs every now and then, and I'll have a beer. You know, like it doesn't. Like, I'm not seeking them out, I think is what I'm saying. But I did, you know, for a time. It was like maybe a year, and I was like, okay, I think I've hit it. I think I've done it. You know, but with like peaty stuff now, I'm good with anything, you know, peaty. But I think what I am excited by now is, oh hey, you know, they threw this bourbon matured whiskey into a Caribbean rum cask. This is gonna be weird as shit. Let's fucking go. You know, it's just like that sort of thing. Like that stuff I'm all about now, where I'm just like, oh, that sounds really interesting. All right, sure. But yeah, I think that's probably what I'm looking for most nowadays is that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, it's more like, so yeah, peatiness is always going to get my attention. But I want a good aroma and a good body on it. And it's weird to say that about a scotch, but you can have some of them are like, some are just thin, and that's okay. That's a style, but I just like something like when I drink beers, I tend to want things that are heavier, like stouts and things like that, because I like the body of it. To your point, Jeremy, about the whiskeys with the different barrel aging.
Yeah.
There's ones that I would recommend to you that are Irish whiskeys.
Yeah.
That's called the Selkie.
Like
Selkie is they have a sherry aged one, a bourbon cask aged one, and just a regular Scotch barrel aged one, and they are all excellent. And you know, my wife being a fantasy nerd too, she just it's a Selkie, so she was like all about that because of what a cool little. That's not something people know a lot of in lore and fantasy, and it's
for sure. So I mean, but I'll say this too about the foggy moss or whatever, right? Like that gets my attention immediately.
Right.
I bought one of those based off of that name alone, and so it's just like, yeah, hell yeah, it's, you know. I think did I try the all LMO? I'm not sure if I did.
I have not tried that, but now I want to.
Yeah, but now I desperately want to. Somebody got me one year. I think it was just called the Classic Laddie.
Yep.
Yeah, which is probably like their classic, you know, offering. Yeah, that was really good.
Let's see. Oh, what's up, Doug?
Yeah. Here, I'll share my screen here real quick.
Oh yeah, okay. I saw a TikTok person use Johnny Walker Blue for whiskey in a Brit test. Yikes.
It seems a little
a little crazy. Yeah. All right.
There we go. All right.
Pretty.
All right, find out. Official birthday. Here we go.
Yeah, you can know how old I am. It's fine. I don't give a shit. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, he's ancient.
Oh my goodness. Great.
Ooh, look at that website. Yo, I want to buy it. And I don't even like.
Look at that bottle.
Damn.
Wow.
So
what does that go for, Doug? Do you know?
That was, I think, $46 where I am.
Not bad, right?
But here's all their other variants. This one I haven't had, but I've had the other three.
Amazing.
What is that one?
Midnight. See, again, another buzzword that I'm all about.
It's a virgin oak and imperial stout. Oh man.
Hell yeah.
Okay. I regret looking at that now.
Oh, you're done now, man.
Why? How much is that, Doug? You don't know?
I don't know, but I'm going to go try to find it now.
Here we go.
Right. Really cool. So Zach says that he's actually going to try. Actually, I love how he says actually. I love how he says actually, like Jeremy has led us astray before.
Yeah.
There we go.
It was $18. I think maybe they made it $19. I'm not sure, but it's it's under $20.
That's one of those things that you find you're like, ooh, I found something. Like this is
and
it's really good. Like
yeah. No, I mean that's kind of what I will get now.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Appreciate that.
Oh man, this is brutal.
Right. Zach, what are you ordering now? What's for dinner? Let's hear it. Come on.
Yeah.
Now you made me hungry. But yeah, Zach wants to know, he's patiently waiting for the Buffy talk. Did you?
Yeah, we didn't get there yet. So.
Working on it. Working on it. The quick answer so that you can order your food is I did not meet David Boreanaz, but
okay.
I feel like
Doug, I always say awkward things for our guests, and this is going to be another one of them.
Here we
go.
I'm
pretty sure Jeremy didn't. I'm pretty sure Jeremy had nothing to do with this, but I know, and I'm probably going to get screamed at in the comments for this comment. But it is what it is. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, is the only movie I've ever walked out on.
So here's the thing. I've still not seen the movie.
Okay.
Really?
Still not seen the movie. I've seen every episode of Buffy multiple times.
Explain your contribution to
the Buffy universe.
Yeah, the Buffy universe. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a movie. You were way too young for that. Tell us about Buffy, because obviously we have some people here who are very interested in what you were doing there.
Yeah, well, so in 2019, no, it was earlier than that. It's 2018, I think. Boom Studios, a comic book publisher, got the license for Buffy the Vampire Slayer comic books, and a friend of mine, Jordy Belair, was the first writer on those comics from Boom and launched the series. And when we came in, basically when it was time for an event that brought, if everybody knows what I'm talking about, Buffy Summers along with Angel and Spike and a lot of fan favorite characters together, they wanted to create a big event book, and they hired me to co-write that event book called Hellmouth with Jordy. And so we got to have a lot of fun over 5 issues of an event called Hellmouth, where we brought everything together for big climactic battles in hell and all that kind of fun stuff. But after that, on Buffy, on the main series, there was an opportunity for me to join in and help co-write those issues as well, and eventually just take that over from Jordy, which I did for about 20 issues. So I took over the series from her, amazing, thank you, that's awesome. And yeah, so
we have good fans of the show. For the record.
This is great. I mean, it's like, it's rare that that anyone says, much of anything. Like if I'm at a signing or something, like maybe there'll be 1 or 2, but anyway, that's lovely. Thank you very much. But yeah, it was a huge, again, another dream come true. It was just like, talking about Goosebumps, about Buffy, about Doom Patrol, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, like all this stuff, like it's all stuff that I've chased for sure, but it's just like it still feels slightly untrue. You know what I mean? Yeah, it just does. It really doesn't. It's just like an absurd amount of luck, and I'm kind of waiting for that to run out, just to be involved in those things in any capacity. So that has been such an awesome time and lovely time, and to work on it with such amazing people and artists and colorists and letterers, and work on it with my friends Jordy and the editor Janine, who edited the book. It was awesome.
There we go.
Yeah.
And Zach said he was leaving us, and now I'm asking all his questions. But that's how we do. That's how we do him dirty, right there.
Consider all the comments he throws at us. I think.
Right. He's definitely more rude to you than he is to me. So that's why we keep him around, right, Doug? But I
like how he yells this. What video games?
Right. But this is really actually he probably meant it because Zach is smarter than we give him credit for, Doug. But this is a fascinating question, knowing who Jeremy is and how he writes and all that. So what video games do you get into, if any, Jeremy?
I mean, plenty. The answer is plenty. This is the gaming PC behind me. So it's mostly now Total War Warhammer 3. World of Warcraft, although haven't been playing that as much recently. But I love strategy games. Diablo for sure. Baldur's Gate I was just getting through again. Or Baldur's Gate 2. But
have you played that crazy one, Elden Ring?
So I haven't played it yet, but the only reason why is because I love, again, another huge fantasy, pillar for me is Zelda. Massive fan of Zelda. And that was just like Ocarina of Time is just, to me, still a perfect game. But that, it's such a huge story driven game. And Elden Ring, I would love to try and get into Elden Ring, but I'm so scared that it would be so terrible. It just seems like it's so brutal. All I see is just kind of hate playing.
Right.
That's what I keep hearing.
They're not into it. It's not like that at all. They totally are. But I think I would just have a really hard time if I was just dying all the time and getting frustrated. I love Skyrim, huge fan of Skyrim. And that, so it's just I get really invested in a lot of the story driven games and a lot of strategy games, because you can kind of make your own story within those worlds. But that being said, I'll play Overwatch, and I'll play my brother's a big fan of Rocket League, so I'll pop on and play some games of Rocket League with him, occasionally, that soccer car game.
Overwatch is a favorite of mine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I downloaded Overwatch 2, and I just started playing a little bit on that. But everyone thinks I'm a troll because I play as Hanzo. But I just like the
that's Greg shit though, this Overwatch stuff.
But it was just, again, as a fantasy fan, I'm just like, oh, it's a Legolas character. Awesome.
Yeah. Hanzo's annoying. God damn it. I always try to shoot him.
I'm sorry. I told you.
He's annoying in a good way because he's tough. He's tough. Yeah. So Zach is inviting you to his Zelda record chat.
Oh, dang.
Whatever that is.
Well, Zach has an enormous collection of vinyl for video game soundtracks.
Whoa.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing, because they've started putting out a lot more.
Yeah. He has a whole bunch. Greg asked him a question about some Zelda soundtrack, and Zach gave him 15 records in our chat, and I'm like, Jesus.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've been getting into a lot. I mean, I'm a huge score nerd and soundtrack nerd. So, and that's mostly what I listen to when I write, and a lot of ambient and dungeon synth and shit. So the Silent Hill soundtracks I'll listen to all the time. I love those soundtracks. Skyrim is obviously a really good one because they have this one track called Skyrim Atmospheres that is a really good sort of ambient track. But that's cool. I didn't know that they did a bunch of Zelda vinyls.
Yeah, Mario Brothers, right? Also that too. I think that was actually the chat, but like he just knows all the stuff. So can I ask a quick soundtrack question?
For sure. Also, PG County, have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah, and hats off to Barry. He's the one that did our voiceover for our intro with that wonderful deep voice of his, that voice made for radio. He's fantastic. Love you, Barry. Chat with you soon, buddy. Yeah. Oh, look, you could be his friend now. You got a new friend. Yes. Zach has many recommendations. Oh my god!
Some of them he pulls out, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but it's like the coolest looking record you've ever seen.
Yes, the vinyl, how they're making the vinyl so different colors, and I mean, you got to. Sorry, Zach, but you got to figure out how to get people to pay $100 for that shit. But anyway, Doug, I think you. Hold on, Doug. I think you had a question.
I do. So I will say, like, I'm a console player. I'm not a PC player because I don't like spending thousands of dollars to upgrade a computer all the freaking time.
Fair enough.
I have a son who is a semi-professional gamer, and the amount of money he spends on his computer setup is insane.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So my thing is, like, my favorite video game ever series is Halo by a mile.
Nice.
I put thousands and thousands of hours into those games. And that soundtrack is something that I will listen to while I'm like driving my car.
For sure.
Like, or just like walking around the grocery store and I'm like, ooh. I'm singing it to myself and everybody's looking at me like I'm just have some sort of
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite soundtrack, video game soundtrack? For
specific to video games?
No, whatever you'd like.
It's mostly movie soundtracks for me.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, there's a lot of video game soundtracks. It's probably Skyrim, honestly. Just because of how, like, I used to use Skyrim when I would run Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, and I would hook up the speakers before everyone got here and that sort of thing, and I would have different songs queued up for like different fights or battles or whatever, and a lot of it was Skyrim. There'd be a lot of other games. I think there's some like Dragon Age and stuff in there, but so much of it now is a lot of ambient stuff. But sticking to the soundtrack question, I think it's probably that one. When it comes to movies, there's a ton. Honestly, this is such a deep dive. I could go on for hours about this. This is bad, but it's I'd say one of my favorite scores that I normally not get people with, but that I suggest to people who are into horror, especially, would be the score for a film called Black Death by Christian Henson is the composer. And it's that Sean Bean medieval, Black Plague movie that came out in like 2010 or 11.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, now
Okay, and it's it's an amazing score. It's beautiful. Along with a movie called The Eclipse, which was directed by Conor McPherson. And if you search for The Eclipse, you're most likely just going to be finding Twilight Eclipse, but dive deeper and you'll find it. But anyway, wow. Favorite movie soundtrack, Forrest Gump. That is an amazing score. I love it. I was just listening to that score recently. There's like this the one where he's with there's a few tracks where it's this like sweeping, build when he's running or when like something, massive happens in that movie. And if you need to pick me up, it's a great one.
Doug, we have the question of the week. I don't have a transition. I forgot.
That's okay. Yeah.
But we do have the question of the week. Or you have something, Doug, yet?
Yeah, I didn't clue you in this, Jeremy, because I'd forgotten about it. So I apologize. So this
is right up Jeremy's alley. Again, this one he should absolutely knock out the park. Let's hope. It's an easy one. It's not even controversial. Or it might, I take that back because it actually.
All right.
It could be. I might be answering the question.
But the question of the week is the Mount Rushmore comic book heroes. What would be your 4?
Wow.
And I'll give you a chance to. Yeah. I guess it is going to be controversial. I guess I'll give you a chance, Doug. I'll go first. I always get criticized on this stream about asking questions and then I never answer them, Jeremy.
Okay.
So I'm going to go first. So I'm going to go not in any order, but the order that I at this point am at. So it's absolutely without a doubt Batman, Black Panther, Wonder Woman. She kicks ass. Gal Gadot. Oof. And lastly, I know this is probably going to be controversial, and he's taken a hit lately because DC, with all due respect, this is my opinion, not Jeremy's. DC has muddled the waters with this man. It's Superman. I grew up with Superman. I love Superman. I think the Man of Steel, the first movie, I think is pretty damn good. It obviously gets panned everywhere. I love who was the Superman now? What's his name?
Henry Cavill's coming back.
Yes, I love him.
Yeah,
I love him. I love his whole demeanor. I love everything about it.
Big Warhammer fan, Henry.
Big Warhammer fan. I tagged you in that one video on Instagram.
That was really good.
Okay.
He's on the 40K side of things. He's much more into the science fiction realm, but he is also a big fan of that game I was talking about, Total War Warhammer. So
right, and then the whole Superman versus Batman thing is so nauseating, in my personal opinion. So that's why I think he's kind of taking a hit. But yes, Black Panther, Batman. Yes, I'm leaving out Spider-Man. Y'all probably gonna kill me, but I'm leaving out Spider-Man. So, who wants next? Who wants next? Do we leave Jeremy for last?
I mean,
who wants next, Doug?
Hey, so I am not a comic book person, so I'm gonna give you some pretty lame answers just for the record.
That's fine.
I think it's gonna be the Incredible Hulk. Just because. The next one would.
Oh no.
Well, no, Zach, it doesn't. Yeah, well, maybe, but yes, we're not gonna do that. But I'm gonna.
We're working on fixing.
Yeah, but so I picked the green guy. I'm gonna pick a black guy, which would be Black Panther. I'd agree. Like that. That character's freaking great. I kind of wanted to pick somebody from The Boys, which is a great show, but like none of those people are good superheroes. Really, they're all majorly flawed. Yeah.
Yes, so, Stephanie. Yes.
Yes, he is. Yes.
We got
it. So then I'm probably I watch more Marvel movies than I watch anything else. So it's like trying to get into DC superheroes are just kind of out of my depth.
Yeah.
So Thor, since he's a freaking god, and
Thor. Oof.
Uh-oh, you might have just upset.
That's okay. He can be upset, and I don't know who to pick for the fourth one because I think probably I would go with Doctor Strange just because he can look to the future and all that stuff, and that's really fucking cool to me. So I'll pick
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
There you go.
Again, all Marvel folks. I apologize, Mr. DC.
Look, I mean, if that's your thing. Don't worry about it. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
Mine, it's very tempting to say Dorothy Spinner for all four because that character, I think I love. No, I know I love more than anything.
Oh, that's a Doom Patrol person.
Yeah,
and I was going to start watching that, and I just my work
it's
week was
cheating.
Like
it's desperately cheating, but it was one of the characters where I had to. I just really wanted to fit into Doom Patrol: Way to the Worlds, which I was co-writing with Gerard. I came up with a whole plan to get Dorothy Spinner into our book. And Dorothy Spinner, for those who don't know, is a young individual who's basically her superpower is kind of like a super curse where her nightmares are made manifest and they can basically become like villains in a way. And one of the big villains is called the Candlemaker. And the Candlemaker is just this massively powerful, horrifying individual. And if you just look up images and a lot of the artwork, you'll see what I'm talking about. But she's the sweetest, kindest, most wonderful person in comics. Like, I love her to death. I wish there was a way that we could get her. We could have gotten her into our books, and we tried. And if maybe there was some more Doom Patrol that we were doing, or that eventually we're gonna do, I'll never say never. But basically, for me, it's like that's the North Star is fitting Dorothy Spinner in there. So
wow.
I spend a long time. Let's say if I'm chiseling away at the Rushmore, I'd be spending a long time on Dorothy Spinner. But
wow, okay.
Other than that,
didn't think. Yeah, I knew you were going to give us some crazy, not crazy,
well,
but like
that one is I'll say is probably my deepest.
Obscure. Sorry, is the word.
No, that's fine. Yeah, obscure is good. But yeah, she's definitely my top. But it's funny, I'm looking over at like my shelf, like trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything obvious. But Usagi Yojimbo would be another one, who's a Stan Sakai creation. And it's
I got a lot to learn, Doug.
Ronin. Yeah, Ronin.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, definitely search Usagi Yojimbo. That's it's a long running book, but it's a character that I love. It's very sort of episodic. I don't want to sort of pigeonhole the book, but what I love about a lot of Usagi Yojimbo stories is how it is a return to a familiar world and character in a new situation. And it's sort of like a monster of the week sort of deal. I'm not saying that's what all of those comics are like, but it's what I love about Warhammer and a lot of Warhammer stories is my two favorite characters, Warhammer, Gotrek and Felix, but it's like an episodic sort of, adventure where it's the same familiar characters that you love, but in a new situation, facing a new foe for their hour on the TV or their 50 pages in the book or whatever it is. It's just like a return to those things. It was always like a comfort thing to me, and I would extend that to Usagi Yojimbo, and a lot of comics in general. Like obviously the Doom Patrol, and I'd probably fill out the rest of Rushmore with Doom Patrol, maybe like Crazy Jane and maybe Flex Mentallo. I knew I'd be forgetting somebody. Flex Mentallo. So here's what we got, guys.
All right.
I'm probably forgetting some real big ones right now. But it's Dorothy Spinner, Flex Mentallo, Man of Muscle Mystery. And then it would be Usagi Yojimbo and Crazy Jane.
Well, damn, dog.
Which I knew none of those. That's how bad I am.
Right. I got work to do.
Again, I'm cheating again because 3 of those are Doom Patrol characters.
Right. Yeah, but man, you wrote them, so you have.
But they're not even it would certainly not be any of my contributions. It would probably be all of the contributions that came before. I wouldn't include mine in that.
So nobody from The Watchmen, like Dr. Manhattan or anything like that?
No. Not on my Rushmore.
Yeah.
I get real sappy, man. Like it's really, for me, like obviously with Dorothy and Flex and Jane in particular, it's normally just like, which of these characters made me cry the most when I was reading comic books, I could put the Hulk up there. Because now I'm getting to way too many. But that was my first comic book that I remember was an Incredible Hulk book. And I was fascinated by that transformation. It was very similar because I was experiencing the same thing with Beauty and the Beast at the time. It's like, oh, monsters, transformation, a lot of, and so it's just sort of like gateway into comic books. But yeah, that's a long-winded answer.
Yeah, I have one more quick thing. The reason the Incredible Hulk is there, one, because of the transformation and how he's just this nice guy and transforms this Hulk into Beast, who's like nothing can kill it, like
right.
Everything he's tried. But I remember I was less than 10. I'm 51 years old. I'm not young. And I had a Donnie Marie record player. and I got a record that was a story about the Incredible Hulk versus somebody, and I wish I had that record.
Wow.
And it was just this story about.
Is it like a radio serial?
Yeah, on a record. It was like the coolest thing ever. And it was just like a regular record I played on this little shitty little Donnie and Marie.
Talk about that's the same thing, right? There's
a nostalgia to it.
There's such a nostalgia, but there's such a comfort in it. It's like returning to radio serials, right? I'm writing this other comic right now. Hasn't been announced yet, but basically I'm looking at like the 1930s and 1940s radio serials, and how, you know, it's that similar feeling that I was talking about, where it's just like that very comfortable, engine of wonder, you know, where it's just like you're gonna experience characters you know and love, but it's going to be injected with that sense of awe, that sense of wonder, because it's a new week and it's a new adventure, and it's, you know, it's just like, and I think that's something that I'm trying to chase in writing. You know, it's just like try and imbue whatever I am writing with that sense of I keep coming back to the words awe and wonder, because that's how I look at it, because those were the things that made the biggest impression on me, you know, when I was younger, and still now. But
what about writing serialized podcast?
Yeah, love it, and I would totally do it. And I've pitched them. None of them have taken off, but that's a form that I love as well, and I love that. I feel like that's part of the reason why it seems like my CV is so disjointed, you know, because it's just like so many different avenues, but it's me being greedy, I suppose, because I want to write in every form and format and medium, just because each of them has their own strengths and weaknesses, and you can work them each to the, you know, advantage. And I have so much fun with comics as my main mode of writing at the moment, but I think that a big reason is because there are comic books that can only be comic books. You know, it's not about the adaptation to, like, let's say, the number one form of storytelling, right? Like, which is film and television, and that's where the money is. That's where all of the, you know, futures or biggest audience or whatever you want to call it. But I love that. No, there are ideas that are comic books first and foremost, and that's where they're best experienced. And there's you know, same thing with TV, same thing with podcasts. Like, when you're telling a story audio only, there are strengths to that platform. There are weaknesses with everything, I'm sure, you know, but I don't really look at them as weaknesses. You're kind of, you know, if you can't show something, how are you going to do it in an audio form that isn't monotonous, or that isn't, you know, unwieldy? And it's like, that's a problem. It's not a weakness. It's a problem that you solve as a writer, as a storyteller.
Yep. It reminds me a bit, Greg, when we've had two guests on here who spoke to this sort of diversification versus non-diversification of your work. And one of them was, we had Chuck Wendig on, and he's written stuff like kids books, and like, he's just gone all over the place. But he liked that he wasn't like pigeonholed to do like one thing. And then we had our friend Brian Gordon come on, who writes foul language comics. I don't know, it's the Two Ducks and all that stuff. I don't know if you've seen it. Like, it's parenting stuff, but like, it's Two Ducks. Yeah. And he talked about, like, he got into that. Well, now he was just like, here, you are the duck guy. And he did this analogy like, oh, well, I started out and I like Thai food. Well, now you can only eat Thai food. Right. Like, and so I see your point. I think being diversified in what you make I think you'll find a lot more happiness that way. Like, Brian was getting a little frustrated with not being able to branch out from that too much. And he started doing something new, which is really excellent. But it's just interesting to see two different avenues, two different people, one who's kind of been drawn to a cattle chute of creativity, and the other one who's kind of went all over the place. Yeah. And that was just a point I would make.
I completely get it. First off, Chuck's brilliant, and I love.
Yeah,
Chuck.
he is.
But yeah, I think that's one of the things that keeps me going, and honestly, it's also one of the things that is, I think, the most difficult. And I'm sure my agent would say is one of the more troubling elements of dealing with me as a writer is I'll send her, like, here's a novel, and she's like, wait, what? Hold on. And he's like, but what? No, also here's like this original, middle grade graphic novel. Oh wait, but here's this adult, terrifying horror screenplay. Hopefully terrifying horror screenplay. And it's just like sort of all over the place. Like, oh, also, if you hear from, Audible Originals or whatever, I have this thing that I'd love to do as an audiobook or a podcast or like whatever. It's just, I'm just using that as examples, but things just kind of manifest, and I think it's an interesting thing for writers who like to work in different formats, because you can kind of be a little greedy, like I said, where it's just like you're writing your comic books and then it's like, oh, that's such a hard problem, I don't know if I can fix it. Okay, right, this podcast, how about we just shift gears to that? You just kind of like go over there, like, and then you wait till you get to a problem with that, and then you go to something else. So it's interesting, but I find that very freeing and refreshing for sure.
I've got a few audience comments and questions for Jeremy, but
first, right, I'm gonna first you want to happening.
All right, let's see what it is.
What you got, my man?
Yeah,
we got Sullivan's Irish Gold Golden Ale.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which
Doug loves the can art. He's loving it. Show it again, Jeremy, if you can.
Here's the back.
Yeah, look at that, Doug.
Yeah, I like that.
It's great
simple, but
it
really
tells
nice.
You what malts it uses and hops and whatnot.
Love it.
Which is really fun. But normally with beers for me, it's Guinness or Yingling, but obviously I'm not on the East Coast, so I can't really get the latter. But yeah, anyway. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Zach is blaming us for the content, and he's pissed off because
he
didn't change.
Oh boy.
Man, that was the whole thing. Zach enters the door and Zach could be around his house barefoot, but when he enters the door, he puts slippers on. So that's a whole different conversation. But yeah.
Right. We're not gonna ask Jeremy what he wears around the house, but I guess I just did.
Cardigans, comfortable socks. Sweaters,
Okay. We're specifically talking about feet though. So if I got lucky enough to get invited to Mallory O'Mara and Jeremy Lambert's house, would y'all make me take my shoes off if I came in?
Make you? No, but
heavily suggest.
I got these real sick, comfy, brand new socks, dude. You want some of these?
Oh, so you would just hand out socks?
Sure, man.
Here's your socks.
All right, dog. Now I got the uphill climb to get the invite. But then I get socks.
All right, so it's cold up here. We got the fire going. You know that you're not going to be wearing your boots or whatever. Get some comfy socks on. We'll get you a beer and call it a night.
I think that's a plan.
Yeah.
Yes. Now he takes off his slippers.
To put on his sandals at the door. Oh my God. I forgot about that, man. So how is the beer? Let's get away from the sandals.
Yeah, Zach, let the dogs hang out, bro.
Look at that.
It's good. Mm-hmm.
Zach, let the dogs out. Go on, Doug.
It's lovely. It's such a nice. I love this beer. I just tried it for like the first time last month. It's an Irish beer. It comes from Kilkenny, I believe. And then it's just a very drinkable golden ale that is more on the malt side than it is on the hops. And it's kind of like people are gonna be mad at me for this, but it's kind of like an Irish red ale in a golden ale form. So it's a little bit lighter and it's not quite as malty or toasty or bitter as like maybe if you don't like red ales for that reason, Irish red ales for that reason. I think you'd be very open to this. But That's just me.
Yeah, well, you see it. The color is like almost like an amber color too, at least.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely. It's not like it's not light. It's got some body to it for sure. But anyway, I'm a huge fan of this one, and I'm drinking because it's wonderful. But at the same time, because I don't have any stouts or amber lagers with me.
That's all right.
So we have this. Is there any character or story that Jeremy wants to see on TV? I think you might have already answered this question.
Ooh, well, I don't know if I have. Well, I mean, Dorothy Spinner.
The Rushmore question.
Dorothy Spinner has been in the Doom Patrol TV show that's out, which is on HBO Max now, which I'm so biased, but I highly recommend, because the Doom Patrol is like the easy, most accessible explanation for the Doom Patrol is that they're a weird, fucked up version of the Avengers or the Justice League. But really, what the Doom Patrol does, what Doom Patrol centers, is heart and emotion and what these characters and individuals are going through, and doing it in a very sharp way with wit, but it's more externalizing the internal, whether that's through monsters or whether that's often just a feeling. Someone's mad or someone's very sad, or someone had a very rough time with this thing, or Dorothy Spinner, for example. I could, again, I'm going to go way too deep into any of that stuff, so I'll stop while I'm ahead. But it centers heart and it centers character, and it's just like the most joyous and joyously fucked up show in the exact way that what I love the most about Doom Patrol comics. Anyway, to answer that question more directly, it is Gotrek and Felix, which is a Warhammer duo. And I have their stuff here. That's Gotrek and that's Felix. But then this is old. This is like 98 or 99 or something. But anyway, I would want to see them, and I would want to see Warhammer told on a grand scale. If we're talking about existing franchises and IP and characters and stuff, but a much more diverse Warhammer than what has existed in the past in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, let's say. But yeah.
Cool. And I don't know anything about this, but I know Stephanie. She's a good person. So who's George Perez, Doug?
Well, there's only one George Perez I know, and he was a guy who did a bad sitcom. Oh, it's George Lopez I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Right. So no George Perez. Is that
the one I know of is in comics, so I'm just gonna go with that one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's probably who it is.
Basically, I mean, my thoughts are I'm assuming this is the George Perez we're talking about, but he's just across the comics community, like I've not seen many. Yeah, there we go. I've not seen many. So George Perez passed away recently, and I haven't seen many outpourings of love in that way. From the comics community, from my friends, from writers and artists and letters and colors. I think that it's just an immense talent that inspired, I mean, I'd say pretty much almost everyone that is working in comics.
Wow. Okay.
But is I'd say it was just a colossal talent that obviously was lost too soon, but
sounds like it'll be missed.
Yeah, very much so. And we have that work, that exists in many different forms. But yeah, all love, I would say. Yeah, once in a lifetime artist is the best way to sum it up. I would absolutely agree with that.
So Daniel has a comment about Doom Patrol.
We love the casting. Actually, the majority of the whole main supporting cast are amazing. I agreed. I mean, it's you know, it's a really amazing show, and it's just one of those things where you're like, wait, who greenlight this? Because I love them, but I'm so interested as to why they did. You know what I mean? Like, it seems so niche, but the response clearly means that it's not, you know, and it has affected a lot of people, and you know, maybe it is, but it's affecting a large group of people. And now I love it. I love the success of that show and the people that it's brought into, you know, reading the books and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Real quick, Doug, and then I'll let you go. We have an update on Zach getting his food. He walked through the Mexican joint and he heard it.
Oh no! They called out your shoes or lack thereof. Oh boy!
I
don't know how you follow up, Doug, but you have to.
All right. So while I am pouring my third, I have a question for Jeremy on the idea of, I don't know if you've seen The Boys on Amazon.
I actually haven't. Everyone tells me I need to.
It is.
My brother's a big fan of the show, and he keeps telling me I need to watch it.
The casting in that is superb. And all of the heroes are completely messed up. And then all the people that are supposedly the good guys are really messed up too.
Yeah. It's
hilarious. And I think the same thing of that show that you think of Doom Patrol, like, who the fuck greenlit this? Like, it's so freaking weird.
I love it. I mean, you know, it's why I got a little disheartened with, because when I came out of film school, I was almost solely writing screenplays and comic books, mostly screenplays. I'd say 90% of what I was writing was screenplays. Did the water bottle tour, which is basically you have a script, someone reads it, they like it. And they just kind of like send you out to meet all these different studios and production companies and stuff like that, which is basically, they call it the water bottle tour because it's kind of all you get. Like you go have a meeting with these people who are all, you know, lovely, but it's not like they can just like offer you a job, you know, right on the spot. They're like, we loved your script. Is there anything else that you have that we could read? And it's the same conversation 30 different ways, but you always get like, you know, it's like someone's always asking like, oh, do you need a water or anything? You're like, oh, sure, I'll get a water. So you come out with like a collection of water bottles from all these different, you know, places. And you're all excited because you're going to all these cool like production companies that put up movies you love. Like, that's the sword from Gladiator. Like, wow, look at this thing, you know, but you're just kind of like, you're just there, you know? So anyway, that, you know, it was, I forget what I was talking about, but water bottle tour is fun in and of itself.
Yeah. So just a quick thing.
Sorry, Doug. Yep.
This is the Islay that I say. This is my Bowmore 15. You can't see it because my lighting sucks, but it's a sherry cask finish.
Yes.
On a 15-year-old Scotch, peated Scotch. So you get the peatiness and the sherry finish makes it a little sweeter. On it, you can see this is the darkest one I've had.
Oh yeah.
So, but that's what you get when you get into the Islay, is because of all the peat. It's going to be naturally darker.
Right.
But
I think I had the 12-year Bowmore.
Yeah, that one is not aged in sherry cask, and that's actually that's a reasonably priced Scotch, like an entry level Scotch. That one's like $30-something bucks.
Okay, there you go. That's
this mission. But this was a 15-year-old Scotch, which is normally in your $80 range, and I got that for like $45.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I have one find that I have to talk about, because it was I had a Balvenie Peat Week, which is a special edition that they only do 1 week.
Yeah, I've heard of this. And
I got one of those, and it was a $150 bottle of Scotch, and they were put in a discount bin for $50. And I don't know. I got that like 6 years ago. I still have.
It's like, hey, this bottle of wine's real old. We should just try and.
Yeah, they're like, because it wasn't selling. I think it wasn't selling.
Wow.
And I was just like, yep. And I picked that up, and that one has
For
been
sure.
on my. I still have like I think this much of the bottle left. I've had it like
Wow.
6 years.
Oh, that's what happens to me if someone gives me something that's like, you know, like a nice bottle of scotch. This much will exist for probably a year.
Yeah,
2
and
years,
it's
2 years.
well,
You know what I
well,
mean? Like I'm just like, oh, I can't get
yeah,
rid of
that's
that.
really expensive, and it's not to be like special occasion shit or like
Jeremy, it's been 7 years. Like, no, but it's still there.
yeah. And Daniel even said Pete Week is a that's a steal at $50. It really was. I
That's
was
amazing.
just because I saw that and I about was like my eyes got like saucers. I'm like I felt like I was stealing it out of the house. Like I'm gonna steal it out of the store. I'm like
the most the best. I'm like a spokesperson for Finlagen now. Best that's P1. The best deal I ever got was Finlagen at Trader Joe's. But no, the most I've ever spent on a bottle of alcohol was a gift from Mallory. And I want to say it was like 250 pounds or something like that. But I got it when I was traveling. And again, this was like, you know, very big deal for me. I got it because there is so we talked about girly drinks, I think, on the last show when she was on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Love it.
And so I'll see if I can pull up. I wonder if it's available.
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
Or no, I mean, I just wanted to see if it's because I think it's like not even available, which is what I was trying to.
Wow.
But basically, it was like only available in duty free. Like it was a Lefroy 25-year that they released in duty free only, and it was like in 2015. But it was called the Bessie Williamson edition, which is one of the individuals that Mallory in girly drinks.
Yeah, that was one of the people I talked to her about. That I was like, one of the more fascinating stories.
Bessie Williamson was kind of like, whoa, you know, that was a real fun chapter. And responsible for you know bringing single malt into popularity and anyway, buy girly drinks. It's an amazing book.
You already know.
That was they came out with this, and it was called the Bessie Williamson edition, and the case was a book, leather bound book, and you opened up the book, and it was the bottle that was inside and stuff. And it had like the cat eye glasses that she wore embossed in the leather, and I was just sort of like,
oh my god,
you can't not buy that.
I have to spend all the money I just made on on
right.
This,
you have to buy that, right?
But
because you couldn't come home and tell her about that.
Hey, I saw this.
And that, right. And she'll be like, "What, motherfucker? You are on the damn. You'll be on the sofa at my house.
I'd be out in the.
You'd be in the couch for sure, right?
Oh, yeah. Take you and your little cardigan outside.
And
you and your cardigan go out there. Leave me alone.
No, she wouldn't do that.
This is the perfect time for this, though, Doug. Perfect time for this.
What do we got?
Perfect time for this.
There it is. Here's the video. This is my powerful, strong girlfriend, Mallory O'Mara.
And your face
lifting me up like I weigh no more than a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, to be fair, Mallory's a freaking power lifter. She is.
No.
We were going to get into that.
So
So you're not trying to piss off a power lifter. You're bringing that home. You're bringing that home every time. So that's not even a question.
I wouldn't want to piss her off. But at the same time, she is absolutely. I mean, she could, pick this house up and throw it down.
Right. So you had to do that. But it was a great gift though. But it's funny how sometimes life hits you that fast where it's just like you weren't planning for that. You didn't, you know what I mean? You were just in the right place. You were literally in the right place at the right time to make that purchase.
Because when I looked, I saw it before and it was like sold out everywhere. So I kind of gave up on it. And I saw one at this duty-free place in Scotland. And I was just like, oh my God. And the guy was like, oh, you you got a real good taste, And I'm like, oh, thank you. But,
Jeremy, are you a coffee drinker?
I am a tea drinker.
Oh, okay.
I am a tea drinker. I like just black tea, like loose leaf black tea. I have that mostly because I love coffee, but I will be bouncing off the walls if I have caffeine.
Right. I think many of us do own girly drinks.
Good.
And if you don't, you need to get
That's
it.
awesome.
Daniel, you are correct. I didn't have girly drinks queued up because Jeremy has such an extensive thing himself. It's kind of hard to even get into Mallory's stuff. But since we're here, we're gonna say, y'all, Girly Drinks is a fantastic book, but it's also an award-winning book, right, Doug?
That thing won a James Beard Award.
Yes. So it's not just us saying it, y'all. It's great. Other people have said it, read it, love it. Yes. So Mallory put a ton of time into that research. We talked about that when she came on.
Read like 700
we just
fucking
discussed
books.
how strong Mallory is, and to give you an extent of how much work Mallory did on that book, she needed my assistance with the library books, which would then go to show you how many library books we were getting, because she could only carry so much. And her being about 10 times as strong as anyone I know, but certainly me, that should tell you about how many books we were getting every time we were going to the library. And it was a lot.
Yeah, I think she told us it was like 500 or 700 books or something crazy.
It was a ton. Like it would be like 80 books every visit, every trip to.
That's a
lot.
And
they were big,
Yeah,
heavy tomes.
I love that story about how she, didn't buy all these books, because obviously y'all probably be out of a damn house at some point. but how she, did it at the library, and I love that conversation. If y'all look back on it, Doug, we should post it on our social media this weekend.
Do it.
The Mallory O'Meara interview, but she also talked about like just her love of libraries and all that, and went into all that stuff. So, but it was really cool to talk. It was really cool because she wasn't a James Beard Award winner when she was on our stream.
Right,
it happened afterwards. So, and we were trying to book her. Then she's like, "Here's Jeremy. It's cool." We're like, "Hey, well, it's cool." She's like, "I'm knee deep into my research for my other book." So, and she's running around trying to still sell girly drinks. So we're kind of like, we gave her grace, and we're like, "That's awesome. We understand. It's cool." But we're just excited for her as much as you are, because it's just great that she actually. Yeah, the book is on the list. The book is great, Stephanie. It really is a good read. It keeps you going. You'll be done with the book in probably hours, because it's just such an easy read. And then the way Mallory fuses these stories together is just a work of art, in my opinion. Because it's funny, Doug, because again,
together so well.
Yeah, because Doug, like I said, I tried to. Jeremy, Doug heard this story, but Jeremy, I don't think you have. Which is, I tried to compartmentalize, if that makes sense. I don't think I said it right. Meaning, I got the book I think it was days before we had it on, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna read a couple ones, and then I can at least know what I'm talking about when we get this amazing guest on. And what happened was, I realized that I didn't know that she was melded them together. So then you have to read so one chapter, it says a person's name on it, but ultimately there's 3 stories in each chapter. And so you really have to read it through. And then I was like, man. So then I actually ended up going back and reading most of it. I think I think I did the whole thing, Doug. I don't even remember, but I just remember the stories, and just you could just tell how much work she put into it. So
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Another question: What are you currently reading? And wow, what book changed your life? Those are two. Well, the second one's a big one.
Yeah, the second one's a big one. I don't even know if I have, and I'm sure I do. And again, it's just one of those things. It's what are your favorite movies? And then every movie you've ever seen just floats out of your brain.
Yeah. Or they all float in your brain.
Or they all float in your brain at once. That's what happens. Is they're all gone, and then boom. But all right. So, what are you currently reading? I'm currently reading. Okay, so one of the big. I put them next to this desk so I could grab them. One of the big holes and neglected parts of my my reading has been one book by Ray Bradbury, which I haven't read, and I feel like I've been saving it because it felt like the most up my alley, which is Something Wicked This Way Comes. There we go. Which is an amazing book. I just finished it this October for the first time. I loved it. So that's what I'm currently reading. I'm also I'm doing a reread of Sandman because, you know, why not? So I'm on Kindly Ones right now, which is an amazing collection and one of my favorites because of how strange and weird the art gets, which for Sandman is funny to say because I feel like that's every single page of Sandman is weird and wonderful.
Sandman's excellent.
Oh, it's incredible.
Even the show was amazing.
Oh yeah, no, we loved the show. It was awesome. I'm so happy it got renewed for season 2, so that's great. Yep. And then another thing I'm reading is a horror magazine. It is an anthology. It's a collected anthology. It's called Razor Blades, Book 1, which is what I have right here. But it's originally put together by a friend of mine, James Tynan, and Steve Fox, many more. And they've just collected so many amazing comic creators. I'm just going to read some names that are on the back. Jen Bartel, Becky Cloonan, both amazing individuals. I love them. Vida Ayala, Werther Daldera, Marguerite Bennett. Like, there's so many people that are involved in this, but it's an anthology collection of short horror comics. And I'm just getting through it now. I read some in the digital form, but it is, you know, to relate it to our Scotch discussion, it's like I was saying, searching for, you know, new Scotches that are trying inventive, you know, out there ideas, which, you know, I don't know if Caribbean rum is really out there anymore, but it was even just a few years ago, I'd say. For Scotches and stuff. But anyway, it's kind of like that, taking chances, doing new things with panel structure, with page structure, with ideas, and even just, you know, trying new things with art that artists haven't had the chance to do if they're working on a DC book or a Marvel book or something like that. So anyway, I highly recommend this one. I'm reading that now. Book that changed my life.
Hold on, Jeremy.
Oh, here we go.
If you don't say the Bible, then you are a safe burning D&D playing witch Satan.
Woo! Then I am safe, my friend. So, where's the sage, bro? God, I can't believe
I think I have some upstairs.
DC Tarot. Look, that Books a Million section is the first place I'd visit. Like, that would be, you know, it's just
right.
It's like, oh, D&D, put it with the witches. You know, satanic panic all over again. It's so black tea's the gateway drug. It just
sage burning and
walk into a loose shop. That just might be
right.
All right, so a book that changed your life before Zach took us off the course.
My life.
Yeah, Zach is solid. Right.
All right, there are many books that changed my life. I showed one of them already, so I won't go on at length about it, which is Troll Slayer by William King, which is the Gottschalk and Felix book. That's certainly one that changed my life. I'll pull another one that I brought over. This is one of my favorite books of all time and one of my favorite comics to recommend to people. Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. It is a collection of short horror, I would say fairy tales. And they are, again, talking about inventive, very visceral, but also very engaging ways of telling horror stories that are deeply, deeply affecting, and that their mark of genius is that you're thinking about them years and years later still. Like when I'm writing you know, anything, or when I'm reading things, it's just like one of those inspirational books that I return to over and over again, especially, and you can get this story online. I believe it's on Emily Carroll's website, but especially a story called His Face All Red.
His
That
Face All Red.
one is, and you'll love it because they're drinking beer in the first page and panel. So
that's a pretty book.
So there we go. But it's gorgeous. It's like I said, it's one of the most inspiring books that I've read. And I'd say it's changed my life because I think about it constantly. Because most of the stuff that I write is horror. Most of the stuff that I write is in that realm. And you know, whether it's Goosebumps or even Doom Patrol, Buffy, like that, it's all under the umbrella of horror, I would say. So yeah, I think about Through the Woods constantly. And again, that's by Emily Carroll. Of course. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Cool. And then I guess we're ready for this, Doug.
Love
this
it.
This one I'm not answering, Doug.
Love it. No. All right. So, Doug, what do we got?
All right. So I'm going to start with something that has been recommended to us by numerous guests that I just started watching. It's this.
Oh, nice.
I just started watching it. I am only 3 episodes in. Jason Sudeikis is fucking great.
Dude.
It's just this aw shucks guy who moves to England to coach a soccer team. He doesn't know anything about soccer at all. His assistant, I don't know who the heck plays him. His assistant knows all the stuff, and it's just like this beacon of wisdom in this little thing. Now the thing is, the woman that you just saw, the blonde woman, is almost like if you've ever seen the movie Major League, and the lady takes over the team and she wants to ruin it. And that's what she wants to do with the soccer team. And it's just this super wholesome. I rarely watch stuff like this. I don't really watch like anything that's comedy all that often because for me, it's I'm such a weird person with comedy that I want just weird stuff. And this is just that guy there that was just on the screen. He is just flipping things. And it's just great. So I'm looking forward to getting through this some more. So yeah.
Oh.
I swear, everybody who told me about this show, you have to watch this. And I'm sad I waited that long.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. And I love that people are saying they told you. So, because I was in the same boat. Again, relating it back to me not being open to nonfiction and then being very much open and influencing me. Comedy is another one of those things that I don't get into, or I don't necessarily seek it out, especially if it's, if it's something that markets itself as comedy only, or it's a bias and it's not a fair bias, and it's something that I'm trying to work on. But at the same time, I watched it because so many friends were telling me, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing. And so I would put it on, and Mallory, a lot of the times if I'm watching a show that, maybe only I have interest in or something like that, she'll be reading. And what was really funny about this show was, starting from the first episode, this thing started happening where, normally I'd have to shout, to get her attention because she's so invested in the book, even if I'm watching something, is that I saw this going on over there. The book was open, but she wasn't paying too much attention to it because she was watching Ted Lasso. Episode 2, that happened more. Episode 3, that happened even more. And then all of a sudden, it became a show that we both watched. And so it was just like a lovely thing where neither of us expected anything. I put it on because I was like, I kind of want people to stop telling me to watch it.
That's where I was like, all right, you motherfuckers, you told me this 80 times, I'm going to do it.
So I can watch episode 1 and then be like, you know what? Yeah, it wasn't for me. Okay, I knew it wasn't for me. And it was. And I was wrong, and I admit it. And now we anxiously await the next season. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
So what are you watching, Jerry?
I just got through I didn't get through every movie that I wanted to do, but every October I always have a watch list of horror movies that I want to watch throughout the month. And it's great because I use that app Letterboxd to sort of like log all the movies that I'm watching, and it'll say like you watch this on this date and that sort of thing, so I can kind of like look at it and see what I was up to on whatever day. But I'll say a new movie that I watched that I really liked. But one of the things that I always seem to do in October is October just becomes a John Carpenter rewatch month for me. So for some reason, it's, typically always, I mean, Halloween for sure, but The Fog, Christine, Prince of Darkness. Yeah. Which I would say, obviously, The Thing is probably my favorite John Carpenter movie. But I think the two most underrated John Carpenter movies are Prince of Darkness and Christine. Christine more than anything, I think. And I just think, and talk about a soundtrack, that might be up there with, no, it is up there with my favorite film scores, Christine. It is such a beautiful, beautiful score. But anyway, and Mallory's heard me drone on about this way too often. She's like, yes, I know. Yes, Christine and Prince of Darkness. But I think that's the those two, for Christine, Prince of Darkness, and then I would say The Fog, for some reason, are the ones that I keep returning to. I think October every single year, So anyway, massive John Carpenter fan. But I would say I watched for the first time. It's been a very long time, but I just recently watched it for the first time. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is an amazing vampire movie, directed by Anna Lily Amirpour. And then another one that I was very surprised by was on the Criterion Channel's 80s horror section that they did. They did a release for October called 80s Horror, and they had a bunch of fun stuff on there. But one movie that I'd never heard about, which stars Jamie Lee Curtis, is this Australian horror movie called Road Games. And it's about this truck driver that is like, his fate is intertwined with a serial killer that keeps burying bodies along his truck route. And Jamie Lee Curtis is a hitchhiker. And it's fascinating. I'd never heard of this movie before. And I'm a huge horror fan. I would be shocked at movies that I haven't heard of. And this is one of them. And it was
Games?
It's called Road Games.
Like Road Games.
Yeah, okay. I think it's all one word. Okay. What they've been saying. It's directed by, it was the 1981 release, directed by Richard Franklin.
I was a whole 10 years old at that point.
I'd never heard of it.
By the way, a year before that, I watched The Exorcist, so I think I was okay watching.
Oh yeah,
that was the first horror. That was the first horror movie I ever watched, and that shit fucked me up for like 3 weeks. I slept with my light on. It was terrible.
Movie messed me up. So this is a different one. This looks like it's from 2016.
Yeah, that's either a remake or a different.
But this one came out in 81. So Road Games 1981. Okay. Although now, I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll watch this new one.
Right. I'm gonna get out of there and I'm gonna look for that.
You're good. You're good. And then another one. I mean, massive Henry Selick fan. Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, are huge sort of seminal works for me. But Wendell and Wild is a new stop motion directed by Henry Selick. And it is under the umbrella of, I think it was a Monkey Paw production as well. So Jordan Peele and
Stacy Keach was in that. Holy shit!
Yeah. See, there you go.
Is he the truck driver?
So there you go. So yeah, he's the truck driver. But anyway, it's a fascinating. Like, it's very funny. It's a very funny movie. And Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would never have watched it had it not been for Criterion putting it out on their channel. But anyway, those are some of the things that I've been watching. But I feel like I
an
haven't mentioned those.
eclectic. It all makes sense, Doug. For a
It all makes
writer of,
sense.
it all makes sense. The ones that you share with us, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So we're going to wrap up here soon, Jeremy. We
for
want to
sure.
thank you for your time and your wisdom and your fun. You're fun as hell. It's great. We have some questions here I want to wrap up with.
Absolutely.
Zach wants to know if you are Zelda Wave.
Whoa.
Vaporware.
So Vaporwave, I totally get it. Zeldaware, I have not heard of this. So now
Gotta rush before it sells out. So then I didn't post it.
Time to rush.
So then in half an hour later, Zach's like, look, did you tell him about Delaware yet?
All right,
So I got your back.
Free your conscience of it. It's now my responsibility to check this out.
Check it out. Okay, great. And then Doug mentioned earlier that Boomerang's his favorite soundtrack, and Doug, I would have to agree. That was exactly what I was going to say.
That is a great soundtrack. That appealed to my R&B heart, like in ways.
It is aged like fine wine, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it, I believe, a couple weeks back. It's just fucking great. So yes.
So I'm queuing it up then.
Yeah, it's old school R&B. It's
old school
great.
R&B and like kind of R&B rap stuff, but like man, it's so good.
I don't know how the movie is aged, but it did have Halle Berry and Robin Givens.
It's not aged terribly well. Let's just say.
Okay. I don't.
It will have aged well in 10 years.
Yeah. Oh my God, it is.
Jeremy, you're going to get a tweet. Oh, I'm sorry. There's going to be a tweet out there, so that's great. The Big Chill had a really great soundtrack as well. Yes, it did. It did. And so last question, at least for me, Doug, you will get follow up or last question. Jeremy, can you talk? Actually, we've covered. Doug, I think we did a good job, dude. We've covered.
There's a lot to cover.
We did, dude.
I'm sorry, I created problems for you guys.
Yeah,
it's great. Good problems.
Like Doug says, I was about to say, good problems. Yeah. Jeremy, talk about the project that you're working on now, please.
Sure. Okay, so I especially since leaving Breakwater Studios to write full time, I've been focusing a lot on original comics work. So stories that I've been trying to tell for a very long time. I think both of them are places that I've pitched to multiple different publishers and have just been rejected, multiple times, which is kind of the case as a writer. Half the stuff you do is just going to be rejected, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times. And one of them is called The Night Mother, which is an original graphic novel trilogy that's at Oni Press right now. But it is, there's some releases online that go into a bit more depth with it. But just to be brief, it's essentially about a young girl who lives in the graveyard who can hear the whispers of the dead. And she helps them. She helps them get to rest and helps them find peace and that sort of thing. But her mother is called the Night Mother, and she owns all the souls of the dead. So it's we can dive into it a little more when it comes out, I suppose. But basically, it is a very spooky middle grade novel. Graphic novel.
And the autumn of 2023, y'all, is when it drops, right?
Autumn of 23. It's nebulous right now. We'll see, but it's looking like that, right? Yeah, that's when Publishers Weekly had it pinned. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah.
And real quick, how is it working with? So y'all, just so you know, I don't know if Jeremy said it or not because I was phasing in and out here, but it's a graphic novel. So then. Ultimately, Jeremy, you're doing the writing, and then someone else is doing the wonderful. Yes. I love the art behind it. So, how is that working with an artist like that and that kind of collaboration?
Yeah, so
must be interesting.
Name it is. It's fascinating. It's as a writer, it's one of the best things about working in comics is your relationship with the artist, and you're co-authoring a story. Because so often, I think, especially in traditional publishing, you have the writer's name, big block letters, and you have the illustrator's name, like maybe on the inside cover or something.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for comics, where that literally is the story. If you're talking about a director, let's say, for example, I'd say that's more the artist than it is the writer in comic books. And I think a lot of people don't really think that way, but I think it's true. But Alexa Sharp, who is the artist for the Night Mother, is the dream artist that I was thinking of when I was writing the pitch.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was just like, because she hadn't worked on graphic novels and long form serialized storytelling at that point, at least publicly published. And so I put her name down on everything. I was like, I just desperately want to work with this person. And I'm completely overjoyed that she said yes. And she's bringing so much more to that book than I could have ever imagined. But it's one of those things where you get an email and your day changes, your week changes, your month changes. Like you get that email with those inks in of this spooky splash page, or this this character that you've been thinking about for a long time, and the character's there, and that character is 1,000 times better than you could have possibly imagined. Spookier, and it's just like you get it, and you're just like, this. They're pouring as much of themselves into this story and this book as you are, and it's just like, that's one of the best feelings when you connect. Like when I was talking about Warhammer earlier or something like that, it was just like you find someone else and you're like, oh yay, you want to play this weird miniatures game with me for like 4 hours, whatever. And it's just like when you get that connection with somebody, when somebody, this artist, for example, and I'm working on an original book right now for IDW that I feel similarly about, because I'm getting that art now. That's the joy of comic books, when you have, it's this small team, the small collective of people all doing everything they possibly can to tell this story in the way that, in the best way that they see fit, and bringing something new and original to it. Right. So when that book comes out, I'm going to be excited for people to read what I wrote, for sure, but I'm going to be more excited, and I mean this completely sincerely, for people to see Alexa's art, because I think it is just like, it's what that, I think it's what that book is going to be, when it connects, and hopefully connects with people. I think it's going to do so because of Alexa's art, and it's just amazing. So that's me gushing about comics and comic art.
Yeah, and this is going to be a trilogy, right? You're signing up for a trilogy?
Yeah, it's 3 books, and it's middle grade. So they're somewhere, I'd say, between, just to give a safe estimate, because I don't know what information's out there and isn't, somewhere between like 70 and 120 pages each.
And do they all drop at the same time, or is it going to be?
It's going to be one at a time, and it'll probably be, and again, like with publishing, you really never know, but it'll probably be, a release year 1, a release year 2, a release year 3, and a collection somewhere at the end. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I'm happy to come back and talk about just comic book process. I feel like I can ramble for.
Let's do it. We're game. I know that.
Yep.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's great. And then that drops. You'll know more. Obviously, the closer we get to autumn.
Yeah,
autumn of 2023.
We'll get
right. But I want to thank you for sharing at least a little bit of what you're doing. We I don't know what the word's looking for. We went. I don't know if went through this is a good thing, but in our interview with Mallory, we had the same kind of thing going on where we asked her about what's going on, and she's like, I can't say. And we're you know what I mean? So then there's that level of
she can't say right now, I'm sure.
Right. And I the reason I knew that I could ask you that is because I found all that information in a press release. So then that's why I was like, well, it's out there, so he knows it's out there. So now I'm just gonna ask about that. So that's why I kind of hit you with those details of Autumn, which I, when I read it, I was like, I kind of laughed because I'm like, oh, that's so vague. But it's at some point, right. Well, you're so far out, because it's literally still autumn of 2020. So you're just saying a year. And then with all the work that it takes as far as writing and the, graphic novels are just, you already know, I don't have to tell you, they're just so amazing, and artwork is just so enthralling. And I love how it just fucking has spiked because I'm kind of a slow reader, so I really like graphic novels, and then I pass this graphic novel love off to my sons because I get them a whole bunch of graphic novels, and they're like, "Oh, this is great," because they were really never comic book kids, and neither was I. But now it's almost like as I'm a comic book old man now because I'm starting to really get into it, and it's just so great, and it's easy to just jump in. So I'm gonna shut up now and let Doug finish this off.
Hey, listen, I don't know how to follow it up other than Jeremy. Just thanks for jumping on here, and I appreciate you tolerating my whiskey nonsense.
No, I love it.
So, like Scotch Flayers for me is my thing. I'm a Scotch guy, but like having you on and being able to talk about your array of things you worked on. Like I said, this is the thing we've had. Like our last guest was somebody named Siren of Stout, named Barb, and she's lived a life that you just go, she's done a million things. You've done a million things. Like I'm a guy that works in IT. Like I've done not a lot, but like at the same time, I love hearing the stories of folks who have kind of walked a path that's not a traditional path and gone and just kind of pursued what they wanted. And that's just it's a great way to see that, there's most of the folks in our group are kind of more like traditional path folks. That's okay. That's not a bad thing. That's just how it works for you. But for you, you followed in what I would say a non-traditional path. But you've been able to kind of follow your passions, and that's wonderful. And I'm glad you're able to share all that with us. And hopefully we can have you back where we can talk more about your stuff, because I
sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Daniel wants.
We didn't even get to talk about that.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, that's
right. I'm sorry. Wait, Attack on Titan? Hello.
Yeah, so Casey and Daniel are resident anime fans, so
love it.
Absolutely. And then of course Zach cannot stop talking about the cardigan.
I'll be totally honest. I have another one. There's a gray one I have. Oh, it's
no, don't tell Zach. Don't show him. No.
From the same company.
I have two that look. They have a bigger collar than that, and they're super fucking comfortable. So I totally get it.
It's just one of the so it's like I said, it was 20 degrees when I woke up this morning, and it's kind of like, we have like propane heat up here. So it's expensive to fill up that propane tank. So Mallory and I are just like bundled up, half the time, just trying to stay warm at home. So all of these cardigans certainly help.
Zach's he's trying to keep us on here.
Zach holds the record for the longest show we've ever had, which is another hour. So
nice.
It was like 4 hours. I thought
it was like almost 4 hours by the time.
It was absolutely
which on East Coast time is not great.
I was about to say, I was like, it's it's pushing midnight over there.
Yeah. Right, and he's on barely at 9 o'clock, so he can get a nice little nightcap going on, and he'll be fine. Right,
man, I'm envious.
Right. Doug, you're tired, so you gotta go.
Oh my god!
Now I'll just sleep in. It'll be fine.
That's past my bedtime. Right. All right, Jeremy. One last question: is there anything that we didn't ask you? Anything that you want to talk about? The latest thing you have going out is this here. So it's $4, y'all. It's an fucking book. If y'all want, it looks really scary. It's timely. It's spooky, and it ain't gonna cost you that much if y'all into ebooks. So check that out. I believe we can we can find the link for that on your Twitter, or where can we?
Yeah,
I have
on,
the link here.
It's
Or
on Twitter,
Instagram,
and I'll put it back on Instagram after this. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you're a fan of Warhammer and you like horror, there you go. And especially Warhammer Fantasy. It's my version of doing a haunted hotel in Warhammer fiction. And so it's
That sounds really cool. And
a
I'll tweet it out. Doug, you retweet it.
Thank you
see
very
it.
much. Yeah,
I'll tag both y'all in it. We'll tweet it out. We'll take care of that.
yeah. It's one
So
of those.
check my Twitter or check Jeremy's Twitter, which is down there, y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for doing that.
And on IG, which I know you're pretty active on, it's Jeremy Frank Lambert. So
Yes, yeah.
So,
Jeremy _ Lambert on Twitter, Jeremy Frank Lambert on Instagram. Yeah, it was extremely fortuitous that it came out. The Warhammer folks, the Black Library folks, released it last week for Halloween week, and they called it their Horror Week, which is amazing. I wrote it about 2 years ago, surprisingly. I think I started writing it 2 years ago. Yeah, and then on the same, what's that?
I'm not even gonna tell you how long I've started like 4 different books. So
yeah. And then it's just weird how these things, collapse, right? So basically, the same day that they announced that, they announced the Dungeons and Dragons book that I'm working on, which is called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, Feast of the Moon. and it's the title's that way because it's a movie tie-in for the Dungeons and Dragons movie that's coming out next year.
Oh,
March.
nice.
And that's D&D Honor Among Thieves.
Oh, you just just muted for a second there, Jeremy.
Oh, okay.
You're okay now.
Okay. The reason why the title is so long is because I wrote a graphic novel called Dungeons and Dragons: Feast of the Moon, but it's related to the movie, so it makes most sense to have the movie title in there. But anyway, that comes out, I believe, in February of next year, so February of 2023, and that is just a very fun, also spooky D&D graphic novel that's using all of the characters that are in the movie. So Chris Pine's character, Michelle Rodriguez's character, et cetera, are in a new adventure, and it's a prequel adventure for D&D. But again, just me having fun with pitches and hoping that somebody says yes.
And lastly, I promise this is lastly. Do you want to tell us about what you drank tonight? We usually do a review of what we drank.
Yeah. What do you think of what you drank?
Yeah, what you
Absolutely.
have and would you recommend it?
This is the discussion of Jeremy only talking about Finlagen. But I love it. I'm dead serious. Like, again, my friend Jody recommended it to me a number of years ago, and I went to the Trader Joe's over here, and it was in California. It was in LA, and I just went and picked it up again. It was $18, and it was just at a time where it was just like, yeah, that's kind of my scotch budget, $20 a month if I'm lucky. And yeah, it blew me away. The reason why I keep bringing the price point up and the whiskey up and all of that is because I'm dead serious in that it tastes like, Ardbeg or Laphroaig or Lagavulin just gave, what some cut of their whiskey to this company, or like a Trader Joe's subsidy or something, and they started packaging. It was just like a younger whiskey that they couldn't get rid of fast enough or something. I don't know. And there's like a mystery. There's like Reddit, threads and stuff about, where does Finlagen come from? Like who is putting this out? And it's fascinating to me, but it's extremely, I love it. I love the taste. It's a very peaty Isla whiskey. And I'll have it, sometimes I'll throw ice in there, a little bit of water, something like that. And it's good to go. The other one that I had tonight was the beer, the Sullivan's Irish Gold. They also put out Sullivan's Irish Red. I love them both. That was really.
Can we see that can again, or do you have it?
Yeah,
handy?
I got it here.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll put them both up. Both of the recommendations.
Doug wants to see the can again. He's a can art guy.
It's a great can.
Yeah,
It is a great can.
Brewing is in their blood, they say.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Finlagen will give you no clues or hints.
They give you nothing. Right.
Nose, earthy, smoky peat and salty ocean breeze. Palate, pungent peat smoke, chewy sweet malt, pepper, tar, and a touch of iodine. And the finish is long and warming, smoky ashes of the peat fire.
And a cardigan is required to drink it, I think. So
a cardigan is required to drink it. 100%. They actually don't let you buy it if you don't have a cardigan.
Well, now I know. So now I have to wear my cardigan there.
Unfortunately.
I had Potosi's Oktoberfest, which is
How
great.
is that? Because I'm obsessed with Oktoberfest beers.
It was fine. It was straight down the line. As far as it tasted like an Oktoberfest should. And there's really, we've been describing these beers for the past month on here, Jeremy, but there's really nothing really more. This is one of the most easiest styles to define. You know what you want, you know what you're going to drink, you know what it tastes like. I can explain it a gazillion times, but there's nothing really interesting about it, with all due respect. It's just an Oktoberfest, and that's what it should be.
That's great.
Right. Now we get into I didn't even talk about this because we were just talking and I didn't want to bust the vibe, but it's Doug, did you give me this one?
Windows.
I did not give you that. Wait, no. Yeah, I did. No, I did, because it's from Maine. It's a Baxter beer from Maine. I gave you that.
Yes. Doug gave me 3 cases of beer the last time I saw him. we exchanged, and it was he had to bring a fridge out of mothball to the beer.
Well, there you go.
Literally.
Yeah.
But he's so Jeremy. If you ever could meet Doug somehow, and he says he's going to bring you beer, he's going to hook you the fuck up. So I just want to let you know that. But this is a coconut almond porter, Doug, which had subtle coconut and nice almond, Doug. And it was a really nice mix. And I'm not a coconut. I don't like coconut really, Jeremy, at all. And I don't really like it in beer. But this was a nice balance. And it didn't have too much coconut. You have like a coconut bomb. This was just really, really nice. And I want to thank Doug for this, because I'm, obviously the name. I'm a porter guy. But so this is really, really good. Doug, why don't we just go out with Jeremy tonight? So you tell us what's going on, and we'll just end this wonderful broadcast of ours. Yeah. Most of the time we take our guests out a little bit early, and then we talk some bullshit, but we don't really have much bullshit to talk about. And we got to keep the cardigan on.
Cardigan only consumption.
As long as we can, we have to keep the cardigan on screen. So, Doug, what was going on with you tonight, bro?
So, Altmore, Talisker. So again, sorry for my lighting, folks. Altmore was pretty good, but like more of a floral one. Talisker that's a favorite in my house.
Yeah.
I will drink this all the time. And the last one was a Bowmore 15, which was a sherry cask aged 15-year-old PD thing. Honestly, this is good, but even still, the Talisker is my favorite out of those 3. But they're all really, really, really good. It's that, like, there's no losers in that group. That's just
and they're all pretty cheap, right, Doug?
Oh no. There's not a bottle there that was under $45.
So Zach was right. Sorry.
Yep.
I mean, Zach can be right sometimes. So.
But I might buy a bottle of scotch, 1 bottle a month, and then that bottle lasts me like 6 months to a year, depending, because scotch is a sipper. It's not something you just fucking pound down.
Yeah.
You just kind of put it in a glass and you just enjoy it. So that's just how it works. So if I buy a bottle of scotch that's $50, that $50 stretches me 6 months to a year.
Oh yeah, I still spend more money on beer than I do scotch.
Oh, absolutely. I spend way more money on beer than I do scotch.
Yeah.
So do I. Okay.
Also, I will say this about, not to extend anything, but the Oktoberfest beer that I've been impressed with the most in terms of flavor and drinkability because sometimes it's a little too much of one thing, or like it's a little too cloying, it's a little too whatever, it's a little too this. Has been the Bitburger Fest beer. I don't know if you, I don't know if anyone, if either you've had it, but the Bitburger Fest beer is very funny because it just it's like a blue and white label, but it has this big old pretzel on the front of it, which I think is very lovely. But I love it. I think it's like extremely well balanced Oktoberfest beer, and it's the first Oktoberfest beer that I buy every single year.
Wow.
It's good.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. We didn't you were advertised to us as a Scotch drinker, not necessarily a beer drinker, but now we found out that you are both. Yes. And we respect that a lot here, don't we, Doug? And our
thank you all for sticking
our friends and family here are giving you flowers, buddy. Right. Right.
Thank you all very much.
Casey's also a fellow author who knows the ins and outs and the
he's in the middle of writing a book right now.
He knows the excruciating process that y'all go through.
In the thick of it.
Yes. Try Einer Fresh beer.
I've had it. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah. That's Daniel knows that's really close, or as closest to the one that you mentioned too. So that's why he did that. So all right. Well, we're gonna get out of here, y'all. We want to thank Jeremy one last time for all of it. We had a great time. Man, time flies. Look at it. We're going on the third hour, Doug. Time flies when you got a good guest, bro.
I know. And it feels like we haven't been here at all, right? Like,
right. And really, nobody wants to hear us talk for 3 hours, Jeremy. So
thank you. Thank you for making us
with me, man.
Right. We're right. We blame you. If it was just Doug and I, they would have shouted us off like hour one, probably. So we're good. We're good.
Glad they put up with me too.
Thanks again, and everybody loves your cardigan. But we also love. It seems like we all love the work that you do.
Yeah.
And we're and we're looking forward to checking you out in the future. And we're also looking forward to having you back whenever you want to. You have an open line. You can come here whenever you want, bro. I'm serious. Just say it.
Amazing.
Say it, and make it happen. You can make it happen. Otherwise, Doug will probably be bugging you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and apparently, I'm required to send you some of my stories, which you'll probably roll your eyes at if you're reading them. So
right, Doug. Maybe we should just send them some beer.
People roll their eyes at my stories. It's all good.
We should send you some beer. Doug's really. We're both. I got to work on that, but we're good.
Oh man.
Yes, let's send you some beer. So, thanks, Jeremy. You have a great weekend, and you continue to kick ass out there.
Yep, and we have a little bit of an after show if you want to hang. If you don't, no worries. And we'll catch you.
Give Mallory our best regards. And
for sure I will.
Yep.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.